2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Police Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and of course, as always, streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We got a whole lot to do today. Sal Capaccio is going to stop by at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific time. We will put a bow on the Buffalo Bills season. But I got to start off the show today because yesterday we played you some audio clips, right? Jerry Jones introduced himself as the head coach. I mean, Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach, but it's pretty much a press conference all about Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones with his air quotes about the drought that the Cowboys have been in. And I don't understand how the Cowboys don't think they're in a drought, but that's what the Cowboys do. They kind of just play the drama wheel on how we could get it spinning and spinning and spinning with more stupid things being said and more drama and just dumping gasoline on the fire of the bleep storm of the drama Dallas choking Cowboys. You also had Pete Carroll introduced as the Raiders head coach, and Marshawn Lynch, we talked about this, and this may not be a good sign for Pete. I know he's getting up there in age, and he turns 74 come September, but he doesn't look like he's 74. He looks like he's like 60. Marshawn Lynch was in the back of the room and screamed out, Raiders! And that's what he did. And it kind of startled Pete, and Pete laughed it off. I thought he knew that Marshawn was there. I thought he knew that Marshawn Lynch was the one that screamed it out, and I wondered where that relationship was. A video since has emerged of Marshawn Lynch like sneaking up behind on Pete Carroll and like tapped him on the shoulder. And Pete was like, Marshawn, what are you doing here? He had no clue that he was there. He's like, you didn't hear me scream out Raiders during the press conference? He goes, that was you? He's like, even Marshawn, to his credit, goes, yeah, who else would it have been? Because who else would have done that at the press conference? So the awareness on Pete Carroll is something we need to monitor. I know it was a big day, so you got some nerves in the big day and all that. But then you had the belle of the ball of just terrible press conferences. And I don't know who was worse. Liam Coen with his Napoleon Dynamite kind of feel to it, where if Napoleon Dynamite and a college football coach had a baby, I think the offspring would have been Liam Coen. That's the vibes that I got yesterday. And also Shad Khan. I know that he can't gamble, but did he take the under on the amount of time that he would give to reporters, per answer? Because I don't think he gave an answer longer than 10 seconds. So you had Shad Khan basically pretending as if Trent Baalke wasn't a casualty in order to bring in Liam Coen, that Liam Coen didn't want that, which why can't we be truthful? And why can't we just say, yeah, I wasn't going to take the job and Trent was going to be here? Everyone knows that. Like, you could have never watched football before, and you would have known the reason why Liam Coen is there is because Trent Baalke is not. And also, there is just trying hard, and sometimes it comes off as disingenuous. And I'm sure, right, that Liam Coen is a good dude. He's an energetic guy. His players like him. And just because you win the press conference, like Aaron Glenn, for example, won the press conference yesterday with the Jets. He probably, out of the 4 coaches that were introduced yesterday, with Jerry Jones, Aaron Glenn, you had Liam Coen and Pete Carroll. You would think, right, out of those 4 coaches, and I'm kidding when I say Jerry Jones, we all know it's Brian Schottenheimer. If I would have said, who wins the press conference, you probably think Pete Carroll, right? Just because he's done this so many times, and he is someone that is charismatic, right? And I think everyone likes Pete Carroll. But Aaron Glenn, to me, showed me the most yesterday at the podium. However, we still know that means nothing, because you rather win the press conference than lose the press conference. Hot take of the day. But you could win the press conference and still be a crap coach. Like, it happens. The Jets still got to find a quarterback. The Jets still have to find a way to go make the playoffs next year, because that should be the expectation for Jets fans, is go be a wild card team next year. I know we got to figure out, what the that didn't sound right as a Patriot fan, but, you got to figure out who the quarterback's going to be. And I do think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. And if Rodgers is there, they, should have the goal of making the playoffs next year. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to do that, because we know how many times whenever the Jets have expectations, they usually don't meet those expectations. So I thought Aaron Glenn won the press conference yesterday. Liam Coen lost it, though. I know social media could be ridiculous, and you don't want to be the joke, though, on social media. And I wonder with Liam Coen how his players take it, right? If you're a player yesterday, a player on the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think you have 1 or 2 reactions. Number 1, you watch that press conference and you go, oh boy, we got a joke as a head coach. Whether that's fair or not. But yesterday, he seemed out of place at that press conference. It was almost as if he was trying to sell you as if you were a recruit back when it wasn't just, here's the NIL money, that's all we care about. It was very college-y, like, rah-rah, I'm Liam Coen, everything's great, I love life, this is the greatest day ever. Duval. Give me the sound in there, Stu. Come on.
Duval.
Oh, boy. Like, that's just cringeworthy, Liam Coen. Napoleon
Duval.
Dynamite. Oh, no, stop. Oh, boy. you can't be doing. I don't know what was worse, that or then the Jaguars put out a video where he's like, "Welcome, Jaguars Nation. Let's get this thing going." And he did the Duval again with all the staffers in the background, as if he was at like a school assembly at an auditorium. It was really cringeworthy. But all of his answers, I'm sitting there and I go, I just don't believe. And he's like, nice guy, right? Good story. But outside of his love for his dad and his dad being a coach, it's almost as if I can't take anything that he said seriously yesterday. I felt as if he was just lying through the entire press conference. And you know the biggest question you're going to get asked about is Trent Baalke. And after Trent Baalke, you're going to be asked about Trevor Lawrence. But really, people are tuning in yesterday to see how you would respond about the Trent Baalke questions. And I would assume, now maybe this is why the Jaguars, since Shad Khan has taken over, they've only won 30% of their games. And they're a dreadful football team. And this is the sixth coach that they've hired since 2012 under the tutelage of one Shad Khan. You would assume, though, at least the PR people would prep Shad Khan and Liam Coen better than what they did yesterday. But it's amazing to me how that was not done. And how the answers were just, we're not addressing pretty much what happened with Trent Baalke. Because anyone tuning in with the brain knows that that was kind of bullcrap. So when we get to all this stuff with Liam Coen, and when I'll make the point here, I think if you're a player, you take that one or two ways yesterday. One, you're like, oh my God, we hired a joke as a head coach. Or two, you say to yourself, maybe this is just a player's coach and I'll be able to have free reign. But let's be real about it. Like, winning and losing the press conference in the grand scheme of things really means little. We've seen Adam Gase, right, lose a press conference, be a disaster coach. I've also seen, and right, even Daly brought this up in the YouTube chat, like Nick Sirianni lost his opening press conference. Last time I checked, Nick Sirianni has been wild card round, Super Bowl, wild card round, Super Bowl. So pretty much when you take a glance and you look at this, the entirety of winning and losing a press conference, you know, there's coaches that win press conferences and go on to be great coaches. Also press conferences that are held that a coach wins and goes on to be a horrible coach, and vice versa. But let's hear some of the audio yesterday from this cringeworthy press conference. I'll start with Shad Khan. Because like Liam Coen, right, it's a fish out of water. First time being a head coach. Shad Khan's now been an owner for 10 plus seasons. Here is Shad Khan and convincing Liam Coen to come to the Jaguars.
There had to be some work on your end that last Wednesday. Trent's out, and I assume you got on the phone with Liam and convinced him to change his mind and get back to Jacksonville and let's get this done?
You know, Mark, one thing that was different about this search, that I was directly involved with the candidates and their representatives, okay? So, you know, I was involved with all of them.
He was going back to Tampa. How did you get him on Wednesday night on the phone to change his mind and get back here Thursday? And does that say a lot about your conviction that he was there?
I mean, I believe that, yes. I believe he's the right person. And as I said earlier, I mean, I'd heard a lot about him. And then to get to meet him on video, and why this I felt was just a great fit.
Is there any place that Shad Khan wanted to be at less than that press conference yesterday? He wasn't even in the same zip code of what of even coming close to answering what that question was. And that's the biggest non-answer I've ever heard. So let's hear a little bit from Liam Coen. So Liam Coen on the drama with the Bucs after taking this job. Let's hear what Liam Coen had to say about that.
Look, the opportunity to coach in Tampa was a phenomenal one, to get my feet wet in the NFL as the offensive coordinator, and I thank them so much for that opportunity. As you continue to do more research and gaining more information as you go, it started to become, you know, more clear with every hour that this was an opportunity that you just can't pass up for so many different reasons. And you ultimately want to do truly what's best for you and your family. And that's what this came down to.
Did this have anything to do with the change in the front office structure?
No, that was not the factor.
Bleep. Now, like, I get it, right? Everyone knows the truth there. And to say it wasn't a factor, come on. Like, at least just say, nothing against Trent, though. Shad is going to work really hard to get the next GM in here so we could build a winner. Like, everyone knows you weren't taking that job if Trent Baalke was still there. And that was a major negotiating power on the behalf of Liam Coen. So this one I thought was actually, I don't know why. Nationally, this is not caught on. But I went back last night. So I've been binge watching the last 2 days. I'm a huge 24 fan. One of my favorite shows of all time. I think it's like, I would say Sopranos is one for me. Entourage 2, 24 3. So Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland came out in 2016. For whatever reason, I never watched it. On Saturday, I started binge watching it. Pretty much took off Sunday because of all the football, and then started binge watching it again last night. I didn't go to bed last night till 3 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, one more episode. Because the episodes, they load so quickly. So it's like you have 2 seconds to pause it, and once they start the other episode, and they have the trailer, they have the opening scene, I'm like, I'm hooked for another 45 minutes. So that's what I'm binge watching. There's, I think, 22 episodes in season 1. I'm already through season 1. And I'm already at 1 episode in on season 2. I think there's 3 seasons total. So last night, I'm like, okay, I got to watch the entirety of this Liam Coen press conference. I didn't get in bed till 3 a.m., and then I watched a 30-minute press conference, so I wasn't out like a light until about like 3:30, 3:40 last night. But for some reason, I thought this answer was the funniest to me just because it's such bullcrap. So Liam Coen, they did joint practices, I guess, in the offseason with the Jaguars and the Buccaneers, and I gather it was on the Jaguars' turf. And this is Liam Coen on coming to the Jaguars facility for the first time.
Great question, Demetrius. That was a huge opportunity for me to see this. I walked through these halls, and I'm like, oh my, this place is awesome. And you start to see it, and then during the course of practice, those few days, you're obviously competing against the defense on one side of the field, and I kept hearing oohs and ahs on the other side. And you go back and watch the tape, and you see them throwing the football and BTJ going down the field and these guys making plays. And that was cool to see. I got an opportunity to talk to Josh Hines Allen that day. I got an opportunity to talk to Luke Fortner that day, guys that I had a relationship with, if you will. Those were all little parts of this, right? Where you have an opportunity to look back and say, man, that thing's got a shot, right?
Like, does anyone take him seriously? It's easy to sell now. But you're telling me when it's July or August and you're there for joint practices, you're walking around the Jaguars facility going, oh, it's BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. Oh, look at these facilities. Oh, look at Shad Khan's mustache. Oh, look at the Jaguars. This team's got a shot. They got a shot. Give me a break. Give me a break. That was a terrible recruiting pitch yesterday. And here's the thing. I looked at Liam Coen yesterday before I watched the press conference. I'm like, all right, it's a good hire. They didn't get Ben Johnson, but they got Liam Coen, right? And I agree. The Jaguars, they got some pieces, easy division, only one team in their way. You can make that thing work. And you got an offensive-minded coach who, let's be real, was second on your list. But after hearing that press conference, I don't think you're human if you can't sit back and go, hold on, wait a second. They may have hired the wrong guy. Now, ultimately, you could have a terrible press conference and go on to be a great coach. It has happened before, as I talked about with Nick Sirianni. But, Stu, I don't know about you. That press conference yesterday just gave me major cringe vibes. And as I was watching it, I was either laughing or was just saying, no, stop. Just stop talking, please. Just get off the podium. If I was the PR person for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would have been like, all right, guys, that's all the time we have today. We'll email you out something later. Shad's done and Liam Cohen's gone. Because Liam Coen talked way too much and Shad Khan didn't talk enough. All right? Both of them. Get him out. Get him out. The damage was already done. But that's the Jaguars. They can mess up a one-car funeral procession these days. So, Stu, what did you think of the Liam Coen press conference? Because I was intrigued by it.
Yeah, it was certainly interesting. I can't say it gives me a lot of confidence that they're going to be good and he's going to be good. Again, he could be, but I don't know. I feel pretty weird about the whole situation now.
So I asked Tiki Barber this when he was in the newsroom today. I go, if you're a former player, do you kind of just look back and go, man, we got a joke of a head coach, or, oh, this is a player's coach that I could just walk all over? And he was like, yeah, there's a lot of work to do on that one. Because even Tiki said it comes off, he can be a nice guy, all that stuff. It's just like a joke of a coach, right? When you sit up there and conduct yourself like that at the podium. But also, it's a new coach now in 2025. It's like you got to be a little bit collegey, I feel. And then you also got to treat these guys like grown men. I think that you got to be a player's coach now to succeed, but you can't be a doormat. And that's my question with Liam Coen. We know he's a player's coach, but is he going to be a doormat? And can you lead a room of 53 grown men? That's a question that I have. So I'm now most intrigued by Liam Coen. Stu, who are you most intrigued by when you take a look back at the 6 hires that we have found out about so far?
It's a great question. It's probably Schottenheimer, just because of the whole situation with Dallas and Jerry and how bad that can be, I think, because I think Mike McCarthy's a good coach. They obviously had some injuries this year. They weren't that good this year, but maybe you're kind of going to regret, letting go of McCarthy for Jerry's mouthpiece. I don't know.
So I said this before, and I'll say it again. I would just respect Jerry Jones more if he just coached the team. And you know what? I'm going to say something that I probably will not hold myself to. I feel like I shouldn't even criticize Brian Schottenheimer. This is all on Jerry Jones. So if Schottenheimer messes up next year, I'm sure we'll go off and criticize him. But this is all on Jerry Jones because he's hiring someone to be a head coach that none of the other 31 teams would end up hiring. And this is what I would ask Jerry Jones. Now, I didn't watch the entirety of the Cowboys press conference, but I watched enough. I would have said there was rumors about Kellen Moore becoming the next head coach. And I've asked this question, a similar question in press conferences like this before. I remember when the Mets introduced Carlos Beltran as their manager, even though he never managed a game with them because of the Astros' whole cheating scandal. And I said to Brody Van Wagenen, hey, Brody, there's a lot of people that wanted Joe Girardi as the next manager of the Mets. Why isn't Joe Girardi, nothing against Carlos, but why isn't Joe Girardi the manager of the Mets today? If I'm at that press conference yesterday, I don't know if it was asked or not, I'm saying, hey, you guys were interested in Kellen Moore. What was the deciding factor on why you guys thought Brian Schottenheimer would be better than Kellen Moore? Because they're both similar, except Kellen Moore is younger, and I think he has a higher ceiling. And I'm not a Kellen Moore fan. So I'm fascinated by Liam Coen. Stu is fascinated by the Cowboys with Brian Schottenheimer. What say you? 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Let's have a little bit of a conversation about the referees when we come on back. Because I got a few takes about the way that we're talking about officiating in the NFL. We'll get to that on the other side. We're off and running. Very, very, very busy Tuesday. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
I gotta play one more Liam Coen audio. So, Stu, one more time, give me the original Duval chant that he decided to come up with in his press conference.
Duval.
I kind of hope the Jaguars become really damn good, because that's going to go one or two ways. Like, now it's being used as a joke. If they become really damn good, people are going to play that all the time, like, Duval.
Duval.
Like, did he have an edible before that press conference? Duval.
Duval.
Or if they become, well, I wouldn't say become really bad, because they are really bad. If the Jaguars lose like humiliating fashion, that will be used as well. Like, Trevor Lawrence picked off at the goal line. The Jaguars lose their 4th game in a row. Duval.
Duval.
So now you know, like, all these cheesy TV reporters, right? They're going to ask him, oh, can you do the Duval chant? Like, Coach, do the Duval chant. So this was in one of the break-off interviews after the press conference where they asked him to do the Duval chant again. This is Liam Coen.
But this place is primed for winning. It's primed for winning right now, and I think we can get there.
All right, Coach, I know you've been working on that Duval. Can I get one from you before we let you go?
Duval. Here we go.
Could we isolate, Stu, that Duval? And let's compare that Duval to the original one. Go ahead.
Duval. Here we go.
Give me the other one.
Duval.
Which one do you like better, Stu?
I don't know. I guess the second one's a little better, but it's not much better. I don't know. It still sounds off. It's not how it's supposed to sound.
Samter, which one do you like better? You go Duval 1 or Duval 2? Play me Duval, the second one first. Go ahead.
Duval.
And give me the other one.
Duval.
Go ahead.
I like the first one. I like the really cheesy one. The second one, you can tell he's trying too hard. The first one was...
So you're saying the original?
The original. That was from the heart. That's what he thinks of Duval. That's what Duval is to him. That's who Liam Coen is.
So in terms of doing the chant correctly, I would say the second time he did it was better. Like, Duval! But the first one, especially when he like raises his eyebrows and he just looks really creepy... Duval. It's almost as if he becomes a good coach, that's him like casting the spell on the rest of the league. Look into my eyes. Duval. Bella B in Calgary says the creepy level he exudes is so intense that the word cringe doesn't even begin to describe it. It's a good way of putting it. All righty, let's get to the referees. So, I want to have a conversation about the officials. I was more irate with the officials 2 weeks ago. Like, I don't know if you guys agree, but after the Texans game, I was more irate with the officials because I don't know how to hit the quarterback anymore. So, Will Anderson, I didn't think it was a vicious hit. I know you're not allowed to make contact with the head, but I didn't think that was enough to warrant a flag. And then also, when Mahomes slides late, that's got to be something that the league probably won't fix, but they should fix it. And the crazy part about that one is Mahomes slid late, and the Texans players crashed on each other. They didn't even crash on Mahomes, and it still got a flag. So I was more irate with the officials 2 weeks ago, but I get the optics. When you have the Chiefs, when they have won back-to-back Super Bowls, they've won 3 championships since February of 2020, people are looking to come up with excuses on why Kansas City wins all these games. That's just the way that it happens. So there's a heightened awareness with the officials now when it comes to Kansas City. And you look back at this AFC Championship game, I don't understand how, once it went to review, how you look at the Xavier Worthy catch, that ball hits the ground. Now, I stopped trying to figure out what is a catch a long time ago, but when the announcers, and we know they don't, shoot 100%, and these TV referees, I can't stand them. But when they're all thinking that that was going to come back, and it doesn't, that lays the foundation and that opens up the box, which it doesn't take much to do, on, here we go. The NFL, right, the New York, they're all in on the Chiefs trying to win, which I don't buy. But when you have a team consistently there, and you look at the way that they won a Super Bowl 2 times ago with the very ticky-tack holding call on James Bradbury when the officials weren't calling anything, I just want consistency. And you look back at that Xavier Worthy play, the ball hits the ground. So, to me, that should have been ruled not a catch. Now, I'm not saying the officials are why the Chiefs won the game, because I don't believe that. At the end of the day, Dalton Kincaid catch the freaking ball, and I'm not saying you're going to win the game, but there's a chance you at least tie the game or you go on to win the game. But the one that still doesn't make sense to me, and this is where I think it's very selective. So the definition to overturn something is it needs to be conclusive with reasonable doubt, right? Like, it has to be clear and obvious. And you have to have there has to be enough evidence to say, okay, this is obvious, and this is something that we're not going to this is something that we're going to overturn. It has to be obvious. But how many times do you see something called on the field? Like, he stopped short, and then it's not clear and obvious, and they give it to him. Now, on the first look, I didn't think he got it. But when you have the overhead view, and there's an overhead view of it, and it looks like he got it, and Forward Progress should have given it to him, I don't get how you don't overturn that. And I thought that was a massive part in the game because it was 22-21. It's early in the fourth quarter. We know Mahomes could stage a comeback, obviously. But they're driving. And then when the Chiefs then turn that into a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, that took all the momentum away for the Buffalo Bills. So here's what I'm just saying. There are calls that the Chiefs get. everyone gets calls. I don't think the NFL is like, oh, we're calling in the hit. Let's make sure the Chiefs get all these calls so we have Taylor Swift there for the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think that's happening. Now, like, we could have fun in saying that, but I really hope that we're not talking about the Super Bowl 2 Mondays from now and we're bitching about the officials. Like, you could always bitch about the officials somewhere in a game. And especially with social media, you could make things look the way that they don't appear. And also, you could find holding or a call on pretty much every play when you slow things down and you screen grab. But I hope there's not an egregious call in this game, because there's nothing less that I enjoy doing than sitting here after a big game and bitching about the officials. But that's a storyline. Like, going into the Super Bowl, and I know that we're still 2 weeks out, but if you look at this week, which is the bye week, and then you have the craziness, all happen. We'll be out in New Orleans all the time, all that week, doing 5 shows from Radio Row at the convention center. But you look at the storylines heading into this one. It's right. On the Chiefs side, it's Mahomes chasing Brady, Andy Reid chasing Belichick, the dynasty of the Chiefs. Travis Kelce's always a storyline. I think more so last year than this year, but Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are always a storyline. Like, that's the Chiefs in a nutshell. And then you look at the Eagles, it's Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni redemption, the greatness of their defense, the Andy Reid Philadelphia storyline, round 2. And then the other storyline that's there are the officials. And what the heck are we going to get from the officials? And I just hope the officials don't become a storyline. And I hope that they get it right on Super Bowl Sunday, because it'd be very disappointing if we're sitting here 2 Mondays from now and go, oh, the Chiefs got a big call in a big game. And it was something that was obviously something that should not have been called, or something that should not have gone their way. So that's kind of my thoughts on the officials. But, I do think there's people that are tired with the officials and they're tired of the Chiefs. Now, Carlos with a K is here, which, by the way, I'm very disappointed in Carlos with a K.
Here we go.
You have any idea why I'm disappointed with you?
Not a clue.
Because you're fugazi.
How am I fugazi?
You fugazi.
Oh, I can be accused of a lot of things.
You're fugazi.
Not one of them.
You're not a man of your word.
How so?
How so? There's a man that was here in the summer with us. His name is Carlos Ortiz.
That's me.
I'm looking at him right now. He looks very familiar to the guy that I'm talking to right now. And he goes, Saquon Barkley. Or actually, there's a guy on TikTok who they were talking about Saquon Barkley. He's like, Saquon Barkley, which is just awesome. And he keeps like, Saquon Barkley. And there was a guy by the name of Carlos who was a Giant fan. In the moment I'm talking about. And he was getting a little cocky. He was feeling himself. Yeah. You were trying to be a little Sean Marash-like. And you're like peacocking around, right? Oh, I'm the Giants. Oh, we stink. But, man, we don't have to deal with Saquon Barkley. And you were trying to justify your hurt. You were trying to pretend like you weren't hurt, pretend like your heart wasn't broken, and you were basically going at the kneecaps of Saquon Barkley. And you're like, that guy's never going to stay healthy. And I took the easiest bet of my life. You said 7.5 games, over, under, and I said, I'll take the over.
I initially said 5.5, too. Yeah. Remember that?
And I helped you. I said, no, we could beef that up a little bit. And you said that you were going to take me out for a really nice dinner. Now, that bet, I think, cleared like 2 months ago.
Okay, I did ask you not some time ago
it's January
about that.
28th. And I'm emaciated. I got no food in my tummy.
The one time I said, hey, what are your plans this weekend? You were busy. I forgot what you were doing, but I can't keep up with your all-star schedule. What am I supposed to chase you down? I asked you one time. Dude, what do I do? Outside of here, I'm always home.
I'm trying to find this message, by the way, from you.
No, scroll up. It's there. But listen,
we talk a decent amount, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's a Puerto Rican restaurant, and I believe our friend Andrew Perloff invited himself. I'm happy to have him, too.
Yeah, he should pick up the tab for you, if we're being honest. The amount of money he makes.
Then I would pick up your tab. Being said, I invited you. You were too busy. I'm not going to chase you to pay out the bet. I'm happy to do so. I made the bet. I am a man of my word, and I'd love to break bread over you. I just can't chase you down for it.
You break bread over me or break bread with me?
With you.
I hope you don't hit me with like a baguette or something.
Oh, like a couple of platinums. Bang.
Wait, hold on. I'm looking at this right now. I remember you reaching out to me.
Yeah.
And it was like a kind of a last second, very late offer. I can't find anything. Ooh, you had some words to say about this person, words to say about that person. You wish me a happy Hanukkah.
I think I tried to spell it Chinooka as well.
Oh, yeah. That's a good line. And then, a lot of Gelb name dropping. You talking about
our
bull
conversations
riding.
are very random and nothing in order.
Yeah, I'm trying to find this, Carlos.
It's there.
I'm not seeing anything.
It's
I invited you to a Ranger game tonight. You blew me off for that. I don't see anything here.
Somebody has to.
But I can find it. But I'm just saying.
But I did put that out there, gentlemen. I did invite him. I will find a record. I'll screenshot it. That's still better than nothing.
Now hold on, Mike. You've been around a long time. You're old. Let me just ask you this: if I lost a bet to you, and let's say I went to go pay off the bet, and the one time that you asked me, like day of, to go out for dinner, it didn't work for your schedule, isn't it on the person that lost the bet to then at least follow up a second time?
As somebody who's lost a bet to you, and you called me out multiple times for not paying up that bet until I eventually did pay that bet.
What bet was that? Oh, dinner?
Yeah, it was dinner a year ago. I do know Zach is a man who says, hey, once you lose the bet, he wants quick pay up. It's not like hey, let me hit you up one time. It's like, hey, as soon as the bet is official, I want you to at least make the effort and make multiple efforts to make it happen. One time, Carlos, listen, I love you, man. I know you're busy. Congratulations on the gig. You're amazing at what you do, buddy. Go Rangers.
Yeah, he's fine.
But, you got to make more of an effort for Zach Gelb.
All right, what are you doing this Saturday?
This Saturday?
Oh, let me check my schedule. I got a flight, or I got an appearance.
We are going to New Orleans this weekend.
I care about my physical.
That game can wait.
I care about my physical appearance these days. I'm going to eat like a fat pig in New Orleans. So to do this Saturday, can we do it in March? Can we find the day in March?
Sure. I'm happy to find a day in
Okay,
March.
I found the message. November 3rd. All right, boys, pick one. It was two
And I
restaurants
gave you multiple
with myself
yes.
and Perloff. Perloff said, wow, both look amazing. I'm pretty close to the second one, which looks amazing. Saquon walked off before halftime, Zach. Looks like it's actually under 7.5 to me. And then never heard from you again.
All right. But proof is in the pudding. I did at least hit it.
You didn't even ask for a date. You didn't say the time.
Yeah,
you
pick a
didn't say
restaurant.
where.
Let's progress to getting there. I don't know where we're going.
March.
All right,
By the end of March.
Pick one of the restaurants or one of your places. We're happy to do this.
This is not on me. I want to experience your culture. You pick the place.
Fine.
You tell me, here are a few weekends that work for you.
All right,
I'll look through my busy schedule. I'm busy the first weekend of March.
I'm going to forget by the time this update is
Exactly, because
I will look at the place.
You are a disingenuous, lying sack of you-know-what. I'm sorry.
Keep that energy.
You were raised better than this.
Keep that energy when that mouth suckling whatever you order comes off of the plate.
Take it easy. Maybe I don't want to do this dinner.
You want to dump that? No.
This ain't the Bart Winkler show. We don't dump things. Unless if you curse. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just saying, I may need to call your wife. Because I know your wife keeps you in check. And I may tell your wife, Carlos Ortiz, you married a man that's not a man of his word. And she'd be like, yeah, I know.
She'll yell at you for taking money out of her pocket.
Yeah, that's true. All righty, Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll do a news brief next. Standing to the left of me, or sitting to the left of me, is someone that I can no longer trust. There's a circle of trust. He's on the outside looking in now, and I'm very disappointed by that. You can never trust a guy that spells Carlos with a K. Like, let's just be real. Here is Carlos Ortiz.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, this report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with our easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. For the third time this season, the Miami Heat are suspending Jimmy Butler, only this time it is indefinite. Butler was expected to return in last night's win over the Magic, but walked out after shooting around when he was given the plans to drop out of the starting five. With the Heat lowering their asking price, it's allowed some teams to kick the tires on a potential trade, one of those being Golden State, and Warriors head coach Steve Kerr says this season has been tough.
These are difficult times, just trying to climb back into a better position in the playoff race, and knowing we're right there, but knowing we're also in need of some improvement and finding a way to win some of these close games.
Warriors in action tonight against the Jazz at 7 Pacific. The Cowboys are hiring former Bears head coach Matt Eberflus as their new defensive coordinator. They'll take over for a Mike Zimmer defense that finished 28th in yards and 31st in points per game. And with the Patriots coaching staff in transition, Brian Belichick, youngest son of Bill, is not among one of the coaches that will be retained by Mike Vrabel. I'm Carlos Ortiz.
And I'm not a man of my word.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
That Carlos with the K, he moves quickly. Now, a military guy, you give him an order, he executes it very quickly. I just got a text during the break, which is update ended 3 minutes ago, to me and Perloff. What's your weekend availability in March? Time to cash in on this dinner bet. Screw Saquon. I'm good any of the weekends in March. So we had to hunt him down to get what we wanted, but ultimately we'll get what we want. Let's go to Travis and Jason Kelce. This was before they knew the Super Bowl matchup. This is on the New Heights podcast. Listen up when we try to get a little intel on if Jason Kelce will be rooting for the Eagles or his brother in the Super Bowl.
From R.L. Baber, no dumb questions. If the Chiefs play the Eagles in the Super Bowl next year, will Jason root for Travis?
That's not the question. It says, who will Jason root for? I will root for the Eagles, of course, because I will always be an Eagle.
Such bull.
First and foremost.
First and foremost?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll also root for Travis to have a good game, of course, because he's my brother. But no, I'll definitely be cheering on the Eagles.
Well, there you go, Baber. Got what you asked for. Good luck to your Eagles.
That's the end of that question.
I think on media night, my question to Travis Kelce is going to be, do you actually believe your brother is rooting for the Eagles over you? And then if he says yes, it would be like, doesn't that piss you the bleep off? Like, Kylie Kelce grew up as an Eagles fan. And she's made it clear that she always roots for the Eagles. She won't wear Chiefs gear. But Jason Kelce, it's your brother. I know that was your team, but you're not playing there anymore. I know you love Philadelphia. And it's almost as if you never left the team because you're always still around the facility. But how do you want your brother to win the Super Bowl? He basically said, I'll root for Travis to have a big game, but I'm rooting for the Eagles. We got to ask Travis about that at media night. Let's go to Lance Zierlein, longtime talk show host on John and Lance on ESPN 97.5 in H-Town. Bobby Slowick out as the Texans coordinator. This has been an issue brewing as a long time between C.J. Stroud and Bobby Slowick.
C.J. Stroud came to visit the Texans, and Bobby Slowick was telling them, okay, they were watching stuff on tape. Now, before I tell you this, when CJ was at Ohio State, he really didn't talk to the OC at all. He didn't think he knew ball. He didn't think the offense coordinator was very smart. So he would only talk to Ryan Day. He comes into Houston. Bobby Slowick is trying to tell him some stuff, and CJ just says, oh, yeah, I know that we call this, whatever, XY switch, whatever it would be at Ohio State. And apparently Bobby Slowick just kind of jumped him, said, I don't give a what you call it, Ohio State. That's college. This is pro football. And Bobby kind of got in his face about it, And CJ's not one to back down at all. And CJ, and I don't know if Bobby was testing him or I don't know what the deal was, but CJ jumped up and got back in his face. And it was very contentious. It had to be kind of broken up. And so when CJ went to his next draft meeting, I talked to the team where CJ went, because I asked this team, hey, did you hear anything about this with CJ Stroud? And they said, oh, we asked CJ how his last visit went. And he said, terrible. I don't think I'll be going there. People who train, like CJ's whole crew, did not want him to go to Houston. But then in discussing all of it last year, I heard it was squashed. Like there was no issue. Bobby and him were good.
So I think two things could be true. Could Bobby Slowick act like a jackass? Potentially. And then the other part is, CJ Stroud, what I've realized the last 2 years, he thinks he's like all the way up here, right? He thinks as if he's like an established 15-year veteran in the same class as a Brady Mahomes, Montana. When you're giving advice to a rookie, I know you mean well by it, but it doesn't come off the right way as a second-year quarterback, as if you're, telling Caleb Williams to come over and you have to listen to every single word that he says. So there's got to be some truth in the middle there. But if C.J. Stroud didn't think he was going to be a Texan, and they still did all that in year one, and then year two was okay, and now Bobby Slowick's out, I do believe there is some truth in there, but it's just bizarre. Finally, here is Woody Johnson. Has he evaluated himself as an NFL owner yet?
Absolutely. I have to look in the mirror and I have to be a better owner. And I'm trying to be better. And I do self-scout. And a lot of people scout for me, you know.
How can you be a better owner, in your view?
I think I did it today by introducing you to the two leaders of this team. The second is just to I've got to have patience.
Woody, Zach Gelb here, New York Post. You've introduced a lot of GMs and coaches before. Why will this time actually be any different? We should probably go through all the owners in the league. And where's the approval rating at for these owners? Do we approve or do we disapprove of these NFL owners for all 32 NFL owners? And I guess we could bring on Bart Winkler to represent the Packers is the way that we'll end up doing it. All righty, Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Sal Capaccio going to join us to recap the Bills season at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific time. But we come on back. Jim Knowles is off to Happy Valley as the next defensive coordinator for the Penn State Nittany Lions. We saw Ryan Day somewhat get the monkey off his back this year. He didn't beat Michigan, and that's how we thought it would have been said this year, but he ended up winning a national championship. So who are the college football coaches with the most pressure entering this season to win it all? I have 3. We'll get to that on the other side. Sal Capaccio, as I said, still to come at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific time. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
And away we go. Hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Sal Capaccio, Bill sideline reporter, going to join us coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific time. We'll put a bow on the Buffalo Bills season. Before we get to Jim Knowles heading from the world famous Ohio State Buckeyes to Happy Valley, 2 tweets caught my eye during the break, both from Jordan Schultz. Breaking: Commanders offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, despite interest from the Saints and other teams, has decided to stay in Washington for a second season following a remarkable turnaround that saw the team go from 4 wins to an NFC Championship game. His return ensures continuity for the Commanders offense heading into 2025. Kingsbury will be a top head coaching candidate again next year, but the opportunity in Washington was too good to walk away from now. I believe some of that. Like 6 out of the 7 jobs are already filled, and Cliff wasn't rushing to take interviews while the postseason run was ongoing. And if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I think it would be a massive mistake to take the Saints job, when I don't know if they'll be highly sought after next year, but if they perform well again, right? Knows Sean McVay, had a cup of coffee with them once, has been a head coach in this league before, and is a offensive mind, then yes, you'll probably end up getting another head coaching job. Like if Adam Gase got a second head coaching job, I would think Cliff Kingsbury can get a second head coaching job. But is he not a head coach this year because he didn't want to be one? Or someone didn't want him? Like Jacksonville. Why not hire Cliff Kingsbury over Liam Coen? You know, it's just something I'm asking. I'm not saying that they made the wrong hire. I thought if it wasn't Ben Johnson, it was going to be Liam Coen. Chicago. All right, you got Ben Johnson. If not Ben Johnson, though, because of his familiarity with Caleb Williams, would you have gone with Cliff Kingsbury? The Patriots were never hiring Cliff Kingsbury. The Raiders, I guess they could have, but they don't have a quarterback right now, so I don't know if he's rushing to go there. So you go through these jobs. The Jets, it didn't seem like they were hiring Cliff Kingsbury. The Cowboys, you know, it seems as if Cliff Kingsbury, he's probably not on the control meter the way that Jerry Jones would want to control him. So I think there's like a mixture of truth there. Yeah, maybe he didn't want some of these jobs, but I think this is more the NFL passing him up this year than Cliff Kingsbury passing up all these head coaching jobs. I'm just going to be honest. If the Bears job was offered to him, I think he would have taken it. If the Jaguars job was offered to him, I think he would have taken it. But they elected to go with Ben Johnson and Liam Coen. Now, the other thing, this is from Jordan Schultz. And the wording of this one, I think I know how he meant it, but it's weird to me. Veteran NFL offensive coordinator, who's actually been in college the last 2 years, Eric Bieniemy has spoken with multiple NFL teams and also interviewed for the Patriots offensive coordinating job before it went to Josh McDaniels, according to league sources. The belief was that Bieniemy was a top candidate for the New England job. Had McDaniels not been the obvious choice, talks with other teams are ongoing. So I think that's very vague when you say he was a top candidate. Well, how many top candidate? Like, to me, top candidate is one, and then if it's not this guy, then it would have been him. Like, that's, if you're saying he's not the top candidate, but a top candidate. And do I think Eric Bieniemy would have been the guy in New England if it wasn't Josh McDaniels? I don't think so. I don't. And Eric Bieniemy, it's fascinating what he has turned out to be. Where many thought he had to leave Kansas City in order to get an NFL head coaching job. Ron Rivera did him no favors with the Commanders. Maybe he didn't do himself any favors, though, with the Commanders. He was there for 1 year, and then he was at UCLA. It's like bizarre. He's not even back with UCLA. So the last year, he was in college. Then 2023 is with the Commanders. And he'll never be a head coach in this league. That's not going to happen. But can he not even get an offensive coordinating gig now in this league? And I wonder what the truth was with everything that happened with the Commanders. And Bieniemy's in a spot where I think it's difficult because even though McDaniels, right, he could be a pain in the ass, right? Josh McDaniels, as a head coach, he's not player friendly. He tries to be Bill Belichick without the credentials of being a head coach. And in this era of players now in 2025, you got to be a player's coach, but you can't be a doormat. Now, as a coordinator, I think it's a little bit different. So McDaniels and Bieniemy, they are similar, but McDaniels has the familiarity with the Kraft family and New England because he was there for so many years. But I just have a tough time. Like, this is the first time we've heard really Bieniemy's name this offseason, and it's being portrayed to us that Bieniemy has spoken with multiple NFL teams and also interviewed for the Patriots offensive coordinating job. And he would have been a top candidate if it wasn't for the fact that McDaniels wasn't the obvious choice. You know what that sounds like? And I like Jordan. But if and I don't love to guess the source, right? This seems as if I'm not going to say it's coming from Bieniemy, but whoever Bieniemy's agent is, if I'm trying to kind of get Bieniemy's name out there, isn't this what you would send to Jordan Schultz? Like, hey, Jordan, let me give you a scoop. Because nothing against Jordan Schultz. Like, he's a solid NFL insider, right? But he's not in the elite category of NFL insiders. Like, you look at the NFL insiders, you know who the elite NFL insiders are. It's really 4 names, right? Schefter, Pelissero, Rappaport, and Jay Glazer. Like, Stu, Samter, right? Those are the 4 biggest NFL insiders, I would imagine. Schefter, Pelissero, Rappaport, Jay Glazer. I can't even think of another one. Like, I'm going around Fox's Glazer, CBS's Jonathan Jones, good insider, but he's not elite compared to those other guys. ESPN, it's Schefter. NFL Network, it's Rappaport and Pelissero. Like, there's not another one.
Those are the 4 we kind of landed on, too. There's really not another one, I don't think.
And Jordan gets a lot of information, but unfortunately, just because he hasn't been around as long as the other guys, like, even when Jordan has something, it's probably right, but you're still, like, waiting for Schefter, or you're waiting for Rap Sheet, or you're waiting for Pelissero. And Jay doesn't get as much consistent news, but whenever there's, like, a bombshell story or an oh my goodness gracious story, right, Jay Glazer, that's when he kind of pops up. So this kind of seems as if, and I don't, like, hey, Jordan Schultz, you use your sources that you can, right? If Bieniemy's agent called me up and said, hey, this is the information. You got to make sure you're not being used. You got to vet it. But I understand why you put this out there. But when the tweet is, veteran NFL offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy has spoken with multiple NFL teams and also interviewed for the Patriots offensive coordinating job before it went to Josh McDaniels, according to league sources. The belief was that Bieniemy was a top candidate for the New England job. Had McDaniels not been the obvious choice, talks with other teams are ongoing. That does seem as if it's a big slant from the agent, kind of. That's the agent spin on Eric Bieniemy. Who are the other teams? And he's qualified to be an offensive coordinator, but who are these other teams? Because this is the first time, at least I've heard, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an NFL insider. But I haven't seen anything else that Bieniemy is a candidate here or Bieniemy is a candidate there. And it's just wild because we used to talk about him every single offseason. Is this the year he's going to get a job? Is this the year he's going to get a job? And we know that we're not even talking about him getting an NFL job anymore. He's in college last year. And now we'll even be able to become an offensive coordinator again. That's what we're going to have to wait and see. And you know what is also fishy? I'm waiting for the Tello article to come out on why Jim Knowles left Ohio State. And I've seen things online. I don't know if it's true. Like his fiance posted something on Facebook and like they wouldn't let him go to the parade and money, like things like I have no clue. They were threatening him. Like I have no clue what to believe. So I'm not going to speculate on this one. But it is bizarre to me. You're the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. You just won the national championship where the defense wasn't just good. The defense was great. Right? All year long, we knew that Ohio State had the pieces on offense, but could they put it together? Like, they didn't lose that game up against Michigan because the defense was bad. The defense was great in that game. The only negative play that I could really think of was the Khalil Mullings run that it moved the chains for a first down when they had him bottled up behind the line of scrimmage, and he broke one off. But Knowles going from Ohio State to Penn State, you let him go in the conference. What happened behind the scenes? Did Ryan Day and Jim Knowles not get along? Was it, all right, Jim Knowles was trying to grab every penny possible and he was insulted by the Ohio State offer? But I'll tell you this, Jim Knowles going to Penn State, you know what it does? I don't want to hear a damn excuse for James Franklin this year. Because he got arguably the best defensive coordinator in the country. You got your quarterback coming back. You got your running backs coming on back. I know you lose Tyler Ward and Abdul Carter. But there is pressure on James Franklin this year. Because don't give me this participation trophy crap. Oh, you beat SMU and Boise State. No disrespect to those two programs. But in every big game this year, Penn State lost. They lost to Ohio State. They lost to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. They lost to Notre Dame in the semifinal of the college football playoff, which was a winnable game. So, yes, Penn State, they made the playoff. Yes, Penn State got to the Final Four. But what did they really accomplish this year? Because still in the big games, they urinate down their leg. And now you get your quarterback back. You get a lot of your offense back. And now you get arguably the best defensive coordinator in the country. I don't want to hear any excuses for James Franklin this year. It's put up or shut up time. Because Ryan Day, I know he's a very talented team. He was able to survive losing the game for the fourth year in a row to Michigan. And he got his troops rallied together to have 4 victories and win the national championship. If not now, when for James Franklin? And the other two coaches, I think there's pressure to win a national championship on next year. That coaches that are getting questioned right now. And you get questioned real quick. Dan Lanning at Oregon. Like, I look at Oregon this year. It was a successful season with a horrible ending. If I would have told the Oregon fan, first year in the Big Ten, you would win the Big Ten championship. Right? Like, Stu, if I told you you're an Oregon Ducks fan, first year in the Big Ten, I'm not telling you anything else about the season, you win the Big Ten championship, do you think it was a successful season, you would say?
I would say so, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you proved you belong with the big boys. You split up against Ohio State. You won in a razor-thin margin the first time. You got blown out the second time. Oregon the last 2 years has been very good. But now, can you go win a national championship? We know you can win a Big Ten championship. We know, even though they lost the Pac-12 championship 2 years ago, right, to Washington, and Kalen DeBoer got the best of Dan Lanning, we've seen you now be really good as a coach. We saw you be the number 1 team in the nation entering the playoff. But now can you go to greatness? Like, you have a 3-year window here, in my opinion, where they're spending money left and right at Oregon. You got a 3-year window to prove to me that you go win a national championship. Like the clock is starting to tick now, where I don't think Dan Lanning, let me be clear, is on the hot seat. But you have proven that you belong in a very high conversation of college football coaches. Now in these next 3 years, you got to go find a way to win one championship. And I'll also say Kalen DeBoer. I get it. Year one, had some good moments, had some bad moments. It was a failure of a season for Alabama because I said all year long, Alabama had to make the college football playoff. And they did it. And DeBoer has proven before he could get to a national championship game at Washington where there's less resources, far less resources, than compared to Alabama. And I'm not saying that you have to win a championship this year. Kalen DeBoer, you obviously have to be in the playoff. But I do think there is pressure on you to win a national championship because you look at it, right, like Kirby Smart already has 2, right? There's pressure on him to win another one. We just saw Ryan Day, right, win a national championship. The next time we'll talk about pressure on Ryan Day, not to lose his job, but it's just when he goes up against Michigan. And you look at some of these coaches that either have won or haven't won, and coaches that like recently got the monkey off their back, and you look at those 3 coaches, Franklin, Lanning, and DeBoer. Lanning at Oregon, they've proven to be really good. Now can you be great? DeBoer taking the new job. We know what you did at your old job, so there's no excuses at Alabama now. And then James Franklin, I don't know none of us ever expect him to win a big game, but this is an era of parity. This is an era of name, image, and likeness. You just got a top defensive coordinator. You got a lot of players coming on back next year. You now, after getting to the Final Four, got to take it to the next step. So I think those 3 coaches, as they enter next season, Franklin, Lanning, and DeBoer, there's an immense amount of pressure to go win a national championship. All righty, we will come on back. We'll talk to Sal Capaccio. Does a great job covering the Buffalo Bills for their radio network on WGR. We will chat with them about the end of the Bills season as once again, we thought, okay, Buffalo was going to do it. And at the end of the day, Mahomes, Andy Reid, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Steve Spagnuolo, and Chiefs Kingdom ended up getting the laugh last up against the Buffalo Bills. What do the Bills do moving forward? We'll discuss that when we continue after these short messages with Sal Capaccio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's put a bow on the Buffalo Bills season as once again, they have the Chiefs in the playoffs and they can't get the job done. Kansas City advancing to the Super Bowl, where 2 weeks from now, they will go up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Sal Capaccio, as good as they come on the sidelines for the Buffalo Bills, also a host on WGR, and he's kind enough to join us right now. Sal, appreciate the time. I wish we were talking under better circumstances, but how you been?
I do too, man. I was really looking forward to New Orleans and planning, but not wanting to plan, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And obviously the disappointment of not getting there now.
And you know what? I took the bait. I thought they were going to beat Kansas City. I respect Kansas City. I know how great they are. But, man, I feel bad for the Bills fans, and I also feel really bad for Josh Allen. Because it'd be one thing, right? It's easy for people to say, oh, Josh Allen can't win the big game up against the Chiefs. But his stats, his numbers up against the Chiefs and in these playoff losses are really damn good. And he did everything he could at the end of that game. And unfortunately, just Dalton Kincaid couldn't reel in that catch.
Yeah, but listen, I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit for anybody, right? Well, Josh Allen can't beat Patrick Mahomes. I mean, well, he has, not in the playoffs. We know that. They've beaten him 4 times, and his stats are unbelievable. He does enough in all of these games. It's also, I don't think, fair, and not that you were doing this, but to just put it on that play to Dalton Kincaid. Of course, that is one play that hurt the Bills. There's a lot of plays that hurt the Bills. Short yardage really hurt the Bills. The Kansas City Chiefs had a great plan to stop the tush push, stop the short yardage plays. The Bills could not stop the Chiefs in the first half. On the Bills' defensive side, the Chiefs had 21 points in the first half. There's a lot of things that went wrong in this game. It just seemed like all of the little details the Chiefs were better at. And once again, they were the better team in the most critical of games. Another 3-point loss to them in a playoff game. It's tough here because, of course, right? You always remember the team that loses and how they keep getting there and they keep failing. And yet they're still the second best team in the conference every year. And it's hard to wash talking about that and trying to say, yeah, but they're still really good, but they can't beat the Chiefs. Well, neither could 13 other teams, 15 other teams, whatever, in the conference. And it's so hard to kind of walk through that every year.
4th and 1 on, I thought Josh got it. Now, I didn't think he got it right away. When you see the overview look, it looked like he got it. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Looking at the views afterwards, I think there's a clear case to be made that Josh Allen had the first down. In real time, I thought it was very close. I saw the replay inside the stadium, obviously, but look, we know how this goes, right, Zach? Which is they don't usually overturn them when they're that close, and they usually stick with the call on the field, just like the Xavier Worthy catch earlier in the game. You should stick with the call when it's that close on the field. I said all week, all this talk about Chiefs officiating, all these calls, don't leave it in the hands of the officials. Get the first down. You should be able to get a yard. You should be able to get a yard and a half with Josh Allen, the tush push. It's been their best play in short yardage all year, but the Chiefs had a great plan and the Bills didn't do anything different and they weren't able to get those yards.
Sal Capaccio here with us. When you get back to James Cook, I thought he was their best player in the game, period. No disrespect to Josh Allen. He played a really good game. I was annoyed at times, though, late in that game that they weren't getting the ball to him. I know McDermott is a defensive-minded head coach, but do you think there's regret there from McDermott and Joe Brady they didn't get the ball to Cook more?
I don't know. We haven't talked to Sean yet, and we haven't talked to Joe Brady, and I don't know if we will at all. I'm sure that Joe Brady will give us the same answer he does in these situations, which is, I got to do a better job, right? That's what they're going to say. I actually thought they should have gone to James Cook more early in the game. The Bills, he had a 3-and-out to start the game. It was a Josh run and then 2 Josh passes that were off target. And he didn't touch the ball in the first series, James Cook. He had 4 carries in the first half. They get to the second half, he starts running the ball as we know James Cook can and winds up with over 6 yards of carry. So, yeah, I think the bigger issue is it's not just the second half. I think the smaller, I said, picture issue is that final drive, James Cook wasn't on the field. And I think there's a lot of questions about why it wasn't. My guess is, we haven't talked to Joe Brady yet, my guess is they wanted Ty Johnson for pass protection because he is a much better pass protector than James Cook, and then you can leak him out. That would probably be the reason. But at the same time, there's so much time left in the game. There's still over 2 minutes when you get the ball back. There's time there to keep going with James Cook and to bleed the clock down and have him keep running the way he was.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of the Bengals-Rams Super Bowl, where ironically enough, Samaje Perine was on the field over Joe Mixon. And hey, I understand the pass protection effort, like you're saying, but I'd rather have the better player on the field in that case in crunch time when you need someone to make a big play.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the criticisms after the game, right, of everything that happened. And then you do have the 4th down play. He wasn't on the field, obviously. It was coming out of the 2-minute warning there. And there's been a lot of talk and debate, as you've seen, Zach, about what Josh should have done differently. And I will tell you, I love the transparency from the players in the locker rooms. Osiris Torrance, the guard for the Bills, told me yesterday, he said, listen, they blitz from the opposite side they're showing usually. So if they're showing to your right, offensive right, they come from the left. They were showing from the right. So we slid our protection to left. That time they switched it up. And as far as Josh is concerned, Josh said, look, I had my first cadence where he goes, hut, 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 to see what they show. He said, and he looked at it. They didn't change up. So he was comfortable with where they were. I just think, listen, that Bills fans, people love to just bang on the loser, and you can do that all you want. I give credit there. Just the Chiefs had a really nice play. And sometimes you lose the rep and you lose the play. And Steve Spagnuolo did a great job in that situation.
I don't know if you felt this way on the sideline. I'm sure you're right. You have hope all the way until the end. But at least sitting on my couch and looking at the reaction real time on social media, the moment that the Bills didn't get the Kincaid play converted, that everyone felt like the game was over. They could have still got the ball back. And that 3rd down play where Perine, I was livid about it when I'm watching it. And I get it's a Chiefs. They always make those plays. But what was kind of your feel on the sideline? Because it's sensed from afar, even though the game wasn't over, a lot of people felt like the game was over once the Chiefs got the ball back.
I felt that was probably the case, but we all knew that the Bills had 2 timeouts. And then when he went out of bounds on the first one, there was still a chance, right? And then they get to another 3rd down in that situation. Give the Chiefs credit again. They come up with a good play, but the Bills' edge defenders didn't have a very good night. That was another one of those plays where they just weren't in the right spot. Not necessarily as much on that play. Mahomes with his legs, designed runs hurt the Bills. That particular 3rd down, though, Chiefs had a nice call. Bills couldn't stop them. I thought the game was probably over once the Chiefs got the ball, but you're right. You never know. Listen, what was going through my mind is, boy, if they don't get the 3rd down, the Chiefs had a decision to make. Because if they kick a long field goal and miss, the Bills will have a really great field position with a minute left. But obviously, it didn't work out that way.
Sal Capaccio here with us. When we get to the topic of McDermott, I know he's not going anywhere. He just signed an extension this past offseason. We know that he's a good coach in this league. The Bills didn't make the playoffs 17 straight years prior to him getting there. But I just wonder if he's reached his apex here. Now, I threw out after the game, go get Belichick from UNC. Like that, I think would be worth the payoff. But outside of that, I don't even think they're going to get Belichick, to be clear. But this is someone to me that I'm curious if he's just done everything that there is to possibly do at Buffalo for what Sean McDermott's capable of.
You and I could have a great talk show on this one at some point, because I don't think Bill Belichick's the answer for any NFL team. I think that he reached his apex once Tom Brady left. He didn't do anything after that, and I thought the game kind of passed him by, to be quite honest with you. I think it would be a downgrade to go from Sean McDermott to Bill Belichick. But I do think that I will tell you, there are a lot of fans who have the same mindset as you. I'm not one of them. I'm known here locally as a Sean McDermott defender, but I try to explain to people that there's so much that goes into head coaching and building a program, and this man has done it so well. And I get they've gotten to these big games, and the criticism is very valid that his defense, as a defensive-minded head coach, has not had the right answers against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll also tell you that Zach Taylor hasn't beaten them, and John Harbaugh hasn't beaten them, and a lot of other coaches haven't beaten them. They're not getting fired because of it, but because the Bills reach it and they lose to them, specifically, the criticism falls on Sean McDermott and how maybe he's the guy, that should be fired out of this entire group. I'll also tell you that this was supposed to be a reset year for the Bills by a lot of people.
Good point.
I could make the argument easily. This was Sean McDermott's best coaching job outside of 2017, when people thought they were tanking and made the playoffs.
And that's why I think people feel like how I do is, yes, the Bills overachieved this year. The Bills did more than what people thought they were going to do before the year. And still, when it ends with losing to Kansas City, it's okay. Even in a year that you overachieve, you still lose to these guys. So is he the right coach to get them to where you want to go? And that's the missing thing, which is the Lombardi Trophy. And
I guess my question would be,
Zach,
right. And I guess my question, I ask people this. So tell me who's going to do that then? Like, do you have the right? You think Belichick? I wouldn't think that either way. He's not coaching. He's not coming here, whatever. But if that's where you have to go, if you think that you got to get the greatest coach of all time, I think that answers your question. Who are you going to get to do it?
Yeah, and also, I thought if they were going to do so, it would have been better to do so last year when you had Jim Harbaugh available too. I thought Harbaugh would have been a rock star with the Buffalo Bills, and I know he hasn't won a Super Bowl in this league. He's got to one. And I think Pete Carroll would have been interesting, but now we know he's off the market. And Mike Vrabel would have been interesting too, but he's off the market as well. So it's like, I think that ship has sailed.
All coaches who haven't beaten Andy Reid yet, by the way.
Yeah, no, fair. Definitely fair on that front. By the way, the locker room after the game, I would imagine the worst locker room you've ever been and after a game in terms of like what the heck just happened. Covering this group of team was a 13-second game, right? Is that fair to say?
13 seconds was tough. Here, let me say this.
Outside of the Damar Hamlin situation.
No. But I would say you have to remember, so in 2020, they go to the AFC Championship game, they lose. We didn't travel as a radio crew. The 21, I was there with 13 seconds, but the media wasn't allowed in the locker room. So I wasn't,
really?
I wouldn't tell you. Yeah. So we couldn't tell you, that because of COVID, right? There were protocols. I would tell you last year, losing at home and the Stephon Diggs drama all year, and how that went down, that was a tough one too, because it was more of it was a different feel. Yeah, I think this was certainly a what the hell just happened. There's no doubt. Yeah, I would say that's the case. I remember I was young. I was in Florida, and I was at a Bills-Dolphins 98 playoff game when the Bills, Trace Armstrong of the Dolphins sacked Doug Flutie at the goal line basically to lose the game for the Bills. And that was one of the worst locker rooms I've ever been in, because the Bills had driven all the way down to the goal line to win the game, and they wound up losing the game. And I remember going in that locker room, and that was Jimmy Johnson on the other side, and that was a pretty tough one. Anytime you cover these things, there's always certain aspects and guys that stand out to you, but certainly this was a rough one.
In your interaction with Bills fans, and they're some of the best fans that the NFL has to offer. Like one of my buddies, his dad's from Buffalo, loves the Bills, season ticket member, and I texted my buddy yesterday, I go, how's your dad doing? And he goes, better than I thought. And I go, well, is that denial? Or is that you're just numb to it at this point? Like, what's the mindset of the Bills fan as before the year was like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. And then they sucked them back in and they got their heart ripped out once again in the AFC Championship game.
If I would have told most Bills fans before the season started, this team's going to get to the AFC Championship game, they would have been like, no way. You're out of your mind. You look at all these changes they made. But as the season went on, you saw that they won the division pretty clearly, and they had this really great offense again. And Josh Allen, I think there was a belief this is the year. Like, look at the Chiefs. We're vulnerable, right? So now you get to this point, and I think that's what makes it crushing, which is how many times in a row can you climb that mountain, get very, very top almost, and then you have to go all the way back down and start over again. But I think part of it is, Zach, that there's this, like, I think about next year already, the same way that this year was, but even more so now, which is doesn't it feel like it doesn't matter what you do? I don't know if you can beat the Chiefs like that. Again, going back to your comment about McDermott, whoever, I don't care who the coach is. It just seems like it's like inevitable that they're going to win in the end. Like,
and it's
so
not
I
just
think
for the Bills. Like, it's the same thing for the Ravens. Until the Ravens beat the Chiefs or Lamar wins a few playoff games. Yeah, I know the NFL regular season's never irrelevant. It's not the NBA. But for the Bills, Ravens, and I know the Bengals, they still got to get back to the playoffs. And I know the Bengals beat the Chiefs once, but it's like until someone takes down Kansas City in the AFC, and then you still got to go on to win the Super Bowl, why should I believe that anything else is gonna happen differently?
I mean, the Chiefs come to Buffalo again next year, just like they did this year for the regular season. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be the same kind of thing where, so what? Go beat them in the regular season. What does it matter? Like, that's really what the attitude is, right? So how's everybody doing here? It's pretty devastating here, obviously. We got back. I fly in the team charter as part of the radio crew. We landed at 3 a.m. There were quite a few Bills fans at the airport still greeting the team. Bills Mafia, they love their team. They're still very passionate, obviously. It's 3 a.m. It's freezing out. They're out there in the cold doing that. It's going to take a little time to get over it, but we went to 4 Super Bowls and lost. And then they go to Tennessee and home run throwback and lose, right? And you have no goal in the Stanley Cup Finals the same year and lose. And we have a lot of scar tissue, but we're still here. And I think that's what makes this area of sports fans special.
So I don't think it's a mental hurdle to be clear with this Bills group. Like, this is a confident group. This is a really good locker room. I know some of the players on the team. Obviously, I went to college with Deion Dawkins. I'm wearing the Temple shirt today. That wasn't just because we were having you on. So I got to ask, outside of just, hey, you got to eventually beat Kansas City. And we know how great Mahomes are, like Mahomes is and Andy Reid and all that. What else does this team need? Like, to put them in a better position next year, what do you think are some areas to target in this offseason to improve?
So I think that what's missing is another superstar, especially on the defensive side. I mean, Terrell Bernard is a fantastic player. Matt Milano's a fantastic player when he's healthy. And they have really good players, right? But they don't have a superstar game changer on defense. That's a pass rusher. There's been talk about trying to go out and get Myles Garrett or Max Crosby. I just read a report that the Browns aren't trading Myles Garrett. What are you doing anyway? You're trading 2 first-rounders? I guess that's what it would take at least, right? I think that's something that's been missing for a few years, Zach. I mean, when the Bills couldn't get Mahomes down in the 21-second game, that's why they signed Von Miller, who, by the way, was terrific until he tore his ACL the next year, right? People say that was a wasted or busted signing. It was not, but he got hurt, right? And now you're paying for that because of the money you're paying him. That's number one. I think the other thing is we've seen Josh Allen elevate anybody around him. There's no doubt about that. Look what he did with this receiving core. But when the chips were down, you wondered who were the guys that who could you go to make a play as a wide receiver. And I think that's another discussion coming up this year, which we had a lot of last year, but I think they at least answered that you don't have to have that guy to be a great team, but you might have to have that guy in the critical moments in a critical game.
I wonder if they could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, where you go get either a pass rusher or a wide receiver, and you also take away from another one of those good AFC teams. Like, just hearing you talk, I'm thinking, I know T. Higgins is a free agent. Trey Hendrickson wants a new contract. He's on the final year of his deal. I don't know if the Bills and the Bengals are doing a trade, but I also didn't think the Bills were going to be traded in the draft with the Chiefs. So I wonder if either T. Higgins or Trey Hendrickson would be in Buffalo next year.
Yeah, Trey's an interesting name. I haven't thought about him much, but there's a lot of talk, Bills fans thinking about T. Higgins and what that would look like. The thing is with this organization, though, is I think that they showed last year they don't want to spend the kind of money it takes to bring in that type of wide receiver unless he's truly like maybe a Justin Jefferson you would do that for. Is T. Higgins on that level? Probably not, but you might be spending that kind of money. It's the same way they kind of treat running backs where, James Cook going into 4th year, he's going to have a contract extension he's eligible for now starting this year. You got Dalvin out there tweeting how James needs $20 million a year, right? Like, the Bills don't operate that way. And for a large part, it's been the successful way, which is, hey, we're going to pay our quarterback and we're going to get a lot of really good players around the roster, and he's going to elevate some players, but we're not going to overspend at one spot where, do we really want to spend that much on a running back? But look what the Eagles did this year to help out, with Saquon Barkley. So maybe the Bills have a change of philosophy at one of those positions, and maybe a guy like T. Higgins could be in play. There's other receivers. I think you also need some guys like, they signed Curtis Samuel last year, $8 million a year. Didn't really work out this year. He was injured for a lot this year. That's a guy that I think they'd have to rely on a little bit more next year. And aside from Dalton Kincaid's play at the end of the game, that never worked as much as it should have this year either. And
you're right.
Dalton, we learned yesterday from Dawson Knox that Dalton had played through a torn PCL at times this year, and his other knee was hurting as well. I think he had fluid or something. So That needs to be something that hits a little bit more, because look at Brock Bowers. Look at Sam Laporta. Look at some of these young tight ends, and the Bills drafted him in the first round. So they're going to have to get more out of that particular position, out of him, and at least how maybe they match him up next year, because it was just, hey, he's one of the guys this year. But those are little things that have to change.
Yeah, you need either Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid with the guys that they have next year to take the next step.
Yes. 100%. And
one of those
and you're going to
guys,
need that. You're going to need that a couple places. I think one area they do have to look at too is corner. I mean, we saw what happened when Christian Benford left. They just targeted Kyrie Elam. Kyrie Elam's been a bust. I mean, he's not an NFL caliber corner, and he was a first-round pick, and that's a miss by this organization right now. But they need something, because Rasul Douglas at 31, he's going to be a free agent. He had a nice year when he got here last year in the trade. Not quite as great this year. Seemed like he was targeted a little bit towards the back end of the year. So if you go into next year with just Christian Benford, who's on the other side, I mean, you face all these great teams. We're just talking about all these great quarterbacks. They're going to have to look at the corner position.
He's Sal Capaccio, one of the best when it comes to covering the Buffalo Bills. You catch him on the sideline, also catch him on WGR, and he's kind enough to join us right here on the Zach Gelb Show. Sal, appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it, buddy, anytime.
There you go. Sal Capaccio. Always love when we get to talk with him. He is unbelievable when it comes to covering the Buffalo Bills. Well, come on back, and I hate to do this to Josh Allen, but best players in the MLB, NFL, NBA, and NHL to never win a championship. We'll get to that on the other side. Update time first. Here he is. Carlos with a K, where he doesn't spell his name with a C because it would stand for cheap. That's what I kind of learned as we're waiting to see if Carlos will pay off this bet. And I'll give you credit, Carlos, right? Not surprising from a military man that we gave you an order. And right away, within 3 minutes after you left the studio, text right to me, text right to Perla. Hey, when we going out for dinner?
Orders get executed when upon receive.
And you know what? I'm going to stop messing with Carlos Ortiz.
As the only one in his room that's killed anybody.
If he wanted if he wanted me to disappear, he would need a big bag, but he could definitely find a way to make me disappear. There's no doubt about that. So here he is, Carlos Ortiz.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, the Cowboys are hiring Matt Eberflus as their new defensive coordinator. When he was with the Colts, Indy had a top 10 scoring defense in 3 of his last 4 seasons, and twice they were in the top 10 in yardage allowed. Eberflus will take over from Mike Zimmer, who is expected to retire from coaching. The Lions have filled their offensive coordinator role, hiring Broncos pass game coordinator John Morton. The Saints interviewed Eagles OC Kellen Moore for their head coaching job last night. And Cliff Kingsbury has pulled himself out of consideration for that role. He will return to Washington next season as their offensive coordinator, teaming up with Jaden Daniels for a second season. Russell Wilson, Drake May, and Baker Mayfield have earned Pro Bowl honors, replacing Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jaden Daniels. And the Miami Heat have suspended Jimmy Butler yet again yesterday, this time indefinitely, after he walked out of yesterday's shoot-around, reportedly after he was being told he was being dropped from the starting 5. Miami has dropped his asking price, allowing teams like the Warriors to reemerge as a destination. And the Sacramento Kings are expected to open up talks for a potential De'Aaron Fox trade ahead of next Thursday's NBA trade deadline. The 27-year-old All-Star has 1 year left on his contract before he hits free agency in the summer of 26. Fox is averaging 25 points and 6 assists while shooting 47% from the field. I'm Carlos Ortiz.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Trade deadline right around the corner in the NBA. And I'll tell you, there's two things to monitor. Jimmy Butler, obviously, as he's been suspended indefinitely by the Miami Heat. Heat culture for you. And then Chris Haynes has this. Sources, King star De'Aaron Fox is zeroed in on landing spots as the franchise looks to possibly move him. Interested teams will likely be discouraged from trading for him, being he's set to become a free agent in 2026. Fox's unwillingness to sign an extension has positioned the situation here. So we'll see what happens on that front. All righty. So let's do this off of Josh Allen, right? And let's go. I didn't say this to you guys before. Let's do, I'm assuming we're all doing not active players here. None of your guys are active? Okay. Because like hockey, you could go like Connor McDavid, like baseball, Mike Trout. So I don't want to do active guys, even though like you could say, is Mike Trout even still active because he never really plays anymore because unfortunately he's always hurt. but best players to never win a title. So let's just go around the room, Major League Baseball, and, could there be better players for some of these? Sure, but just however you want to answer it. In your opinion, someone that stands out to you, whether the best player or, a favorite player of yours that just never won a title. Major League Baseball, I'm going Barry Bonds. To me, I know you have the steroid stuff and people will freak out and they will lose their mind. He is someone that is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. We know all the prodigious home runs that he hit and never won a World Series. So I go with Barry Bonds. Stu, baseball?
Bonds is the best hitter I've ever seen. Ken Griffey Jr. is probably the second best hitter I've ever seen, and he is right there for me, and he should have a ring, but he doesn't, sadly, for him.
I wonder when you get into these conversations how much making the Hall of Fame matters. And for baseball, it's really particular because Bonds is in it because of the steroid stuff. So you think of Bonds not being a Hall of Fame or not having a ring. Ken Griffey gets into the Hall of Fame, and I'm not even thinking that he never won a World Series, I'm being honest. But it's a great one when you comes to answering this question. Samter?
For me, it's pretty easy. I love Bonds in that position, but it's got to be Teddy Baseball, Ted Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's 2-time MVP. He was top 5 MVP 9 times, last 400 hitter, career 1.116 OPS. The guy was amazing. He had 2 Triple Crowns. I mean, Ted Williams, forget about Bonds and the steroids. Ted Williams is the best player to not win a ring.
So I was between Bonds and Ted Williams, and Bonds is my era. Unless if they unfreeze Ted Williams and bring him back, I'm never going to see Ted Williams play in the major leagues. NFL, this is easy peasy. It's clearly Dan Marino. Marino is the obvious one. That's the first name you think of in the history of the NFL. All-time great players. Marino still argued as maybe one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and that's so tough to do now in this era because he doesn't have the ring. But Marino... he was video games before video games, pretty much. So I go Dan Marino.
It's funny you say that because the guy I'm thinking of has that video game feel to him, and that's Barry Sanders. Not a quarterback, obviously, but was just a dominant, transcendent player that was on the Lions when they weren't very good.
Yeah, and I thought we would go quarterbacks here. And I know, there's other, like Joe Thomas is someone that didn't win a ring. But it's so in the NFL, we really only associate rings with quarterbacks and coaches. No one ever says to the Hall of Fame for a running back, and Barry Sanders obviously was no doubt about a Hall of Famer. That running back never has a ring. So that's interesting. Samter?
Being a former Jets fan, and now that my coach is Aaron Glenn, who got fooled by the fake spike, I cannot, in good conscience, go with Marino. So I'm going with the most talented player, most gifted player to ever step foot on the gridiron, Randy Moss.
Oh, take the ball deep, take the top off the defense. If I can't get to it, nobody can't get to it. Great one. NBA. I think out of all the sports, this is the best one because there's about 4,000 answers that we go to. I'm going with the 2-time MVP, a man that has got to NBA Finals before but couldn't get the job done. Arguably the greatest power forward of all time. I'm going with the mailman, Karl Malone. Stu?
And I'll go with Allen Iverson, a guy who put his team on his back, got to one championship series, but never really had a good enough team around him to win one.
Yeah, Ty Lue, I'll step over you. No doubt about that. All righty, Samter.
I never got to watch him play, but Elgin Baylor, you don't remember this. He lost the NBA Finals 8 times, every time to the Celtics, except once to the Knicks. The year that he retired, the Lakers won the title.
So the only reason I knew that, in terms of it's in my memory, is I had a buddy in college who would just never shut up about Elgin Baylor. He was at the radio station, you have people just always trying to be know-it-alls, and he would always bring up Elgin Baylor. All righty, hockey. I'm going Jerome McGinley. One of the all-time greats, doesn't have a ring. Someone that is synonymous, with being a hockey fan from kind of my childhood, and you just would have thought that's a guy that would have got a ring. Stu?
I'll go with Henrik Lundqvist, just one of the better goalies of all time, one of the best goalies of the century.
One of my favorite athletes of all time.
And again, they got to the one Stanley Cup, but it's tough. It's tough in that sport, but he's definitely in that list.
I'll tell you, that Stanley Cup final up against the Kings, it could have been the greatest Stanley Cup final to only go 5 games. You had the 3 overtimes. I think there was 3 all double overtimes, or at least there was 3 overtimes, game 1, game 2, and then game 4, which I know was a double overtime. Just gut-wrenching. Yeah, I put it out today he's Josh Allen. And I'm I've never seen the same room. People are nothing alike. I'm like, yeah, folks, it's tongue in cheek. I know they look nothing alike. That's like a trend on media and also on social media. And then it's also something that these two guys just always get screwed over by their teammates. Samter, final one.
For me, there's a few names like Jeremy Roenick was on my list, Keith Kachuk, Adam Oates. But for me, when this guy was healthy, he had 5 50-plus goal seasons, 2 60-goal seasons, Pavel Bure. But his career was cut short by injuries. He was so good when he was healthy. He did lose to the Rangers in that 94 Cup final, so I'll always remember that.
I think the best hockey player, though, to never have a ring, Marcel Dion. Like, to never win a cup. 731 goals, 1,040 assists. That's 1,771 points. And he was never able to get a ring. All righty. That is the second hour of our radio program. If you have a player to never win a title, 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Stu, you'd probably be good for this for future years with some of the teams that you root for. Like, any of your Raiders players ever going to win a championship?
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Khalil Mack, yeah.
Just be like Samter, though. Just jump ship and go to a team that just keeps on winning. And pretend to be a Chiefs fan even though you're really a Jet fan.
Chief Pete.
Yeah. Mr. Fisk, Braden Fisk. I hope my Jets catch. And then he saw I was in the room. Oh, no. I'm a Chiefs fan. Don't listen to this guy. Coming on back, we got some concerns with the NFL hiring process. Next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, away we go. Hour number 3 of our radio program, Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. This is in the running, I think, for audio clip of the year. Let's hear from Liam Coen. It's very simple. It's very short. But still, with that being said, it's something that maybe made a lot of people question the Jacksonville Jaguars hire. And it was just based off this short exchange.
Duval.
I've never heard one word from a coach change the perception about somebody. Stu, when Liam Coen was introduced as the Jaguars coach, before he said, Duval. What was your thoughts on the hire?
Very good hire. One of the better hires, a good young offensive mind who I would not have been mad if my Raiders had hired him.
Right, that was the thing. The Raiders wanted him too. Now, I think we're all saying like LL Jaguars today, but, you know, the Raiders have a lot more passionate fan base. I know Jaguars fans won't like when I say that, but the Raiders are, right, one of those iconic franchises, or used to be. And with the Raiders, they're always synonymous nationally with getting things wrong. You know, you go around the league in the last 30 years, is there a franchise more synonymous with getting things wrong than the Raiders? I could only think of one. Stu. You have any guess on which one that is?
Yeah, probably the Browns with all the quarterbacks.
You know what? I could think of two. I would say the Browns, also the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right? Out of that trio, Raiders, Browns, Cowboys, is there a franchise, the Jets? That's 4. Ooh, this is a great question. Impromptu conversation. The 5 teams in the NFL the last 30 years that always get it wrong. Jets have to be in the top 5. The Raiders have to be in the top 5. The Browns have to be in the top 5.
Maybe before the last 3 years, the Lions, but I think the last 3 years have been pretty good. That kind of turned that around a little.
Yeah, they do go away. They do. So,
I mean, the past 13, 14 years, you could say the Giants. The Giants have been a mess since that last Super Bowl.
Yeah, but still, when you beat the Patriots twice and you get 2 Super Bowls, and it's been they're a mess. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as if 2012 is ancient history.
The Bears, maybe.
Yeah, they have to be in there. I know they got to a Super Bowl right? With Rex Grossman. But you look at franchises that always get it wrong. Let's do this by division. AFC East, it's the Jets. It's the Jets now, and it will always be the Jets. The AFC North, it's the Browns. The AFC South, the Texans were there for a while, but they've restored it. The Colts only won one Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, but they won a Super Bowl. Is it the Jaguars, right, Stu?
I think it's the Jaguars.
Right? AFC West, it's the Raiders. NFC East, you know what? Up until this year, it would have been the Commanders, right? Especially with Daniel Snyder, but now I would say that it's the drama Dallas choking Cowboys. The NFC West, you know what? I think that's the most respectable division. Cardinals in the last 30 years have been to a Super Bowl. Seahawks been to 2. They won 1. The Rams won a Super Bowl. The Niners, they're always a good team. I can't give you one in the NFC West. NFC North, yeah, I would say it's the Bears. NFC South, ooh, that's good. So Bucks are off the list because they won a Super Bowl. Panthers have been to a Super Bowl in the last 30 years, 2 Super Bowls. The Saints won a Super Bowl in the last 30 years. The Falcons, they're fine, but they haven't won. I guess it would be the Falcons, in that case, unless if you have a different one there, Stu.
I don't. And when you've been to a Super Bowl, I feel like you're almost eliminated automatically from this list.
So Jets, Browns, Jaguars, Raiders, Cowboys, Bears, right? Those are the 6 of the last 30 years. So how do we, if we have to put the 5 incompetent organizations of the last 30 years, who do we kick to the curb here, Samter? Jets, Browns, Jaguars, Raiders, Cowboys, Bears. What's your vote on who you kick to the curb if we're doing a top 5 list?
You probably have to kick the Cowboys to the curb just because, they've had so many double-digit win seasons. I know they've fallen short in the playoffs, but, they've won a lot. The Jets have been to 3 AFC championship games since '98, so there's that. And they've won a lot of games, but they've been just such a bleep show and just such a mess that I think they belong on the list.
So the last 30 years, and hey, the Cowboys, technically, they won a Super Bowl in the last 30 years, 95, if you want to get technical. That's where it starts-ish. I'm 30. I was born in 94. So, I don't know, though. But the Cowboys, man, they've really... All right, you want to do last 20? Should we do last 20? Then who's on the chopping block? Jets, Browns, Jaguars, Raiders, Cowboys, Bears. Does that change your answer at all?
I still think the Cowboys go off the list. All those other teams have been just almost comically bad. The Cowboys have been really good. They just fall short when it matters.
Stu? Do you take the Cowboys off?
I'll take off the Bears because they've made it to a Super Bowl.
Okay, so you take off the Bears. So let's do this then. I will be the deciding factor here on Cowboys and Bears. That one of them are going to be in the 5th spot. I think we could agree with that. How do we rank Jets, Browns, Jaguars, Raiders? Who's the most incompetent team of the last 20 years?
I have to go. I think it's the Raiders because of all the coaches they've had and the very little success.
Yeah, and what? In the last 20 years, their most successful season was
12-4
with Derek Carr.
Yes, and he got hurt, so they didn't even win a playoff game.
And we also praised them when you had the coach get fired, Gruden with the whole lawsuit, and then Bisaccia got him to the playoffs, and Carr could have won that game and ended up interception. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, against the Bengals.
Yeah, yep. I was freezing my ass off in Buffalo watching that game, waiting for the Patriots to play the Bills, where the Bills got smacked. Do you agree with that, Sam? The Raiders are in the 1 spot?
I think I put the Browns in the 1 spot, to be honest.
But here's the thing. The Browns, they had those 2 play. Well, they made it to a divisional round. But, man, dude, they've hired so many coaches and quarterbacks.
They won 1 game in a 2-year span. They went 1-31.
Well, I'm asking you, which disease would you rather have here? They did have an offer. They did have go have a winless season.
The funny thing with the Browns is they can never find the quarterback. They missed the playoffs. They went 1-31 over 2 years. They finally got this guy who, okay, you know what? He has his off the field issues, but we've got our quarterback, and he's fallen flat too. So just when you finally think you get your quarterback, that's not Tim Couch or Brian Hoyer, then you end up with Deshaun Watson, who can't play quarterback anymore.
I wasn't expecting a Brian Hoyer reference on this show. I am going to go with the Browns 1, the Raiders 2. I'm then going to say the Jets 3 and the Jaguars 4. Does anyone have a problem with that order? And this plays a factor into it. I know that the Jaguars have a 30% winning percentage the last, since 2012. They made an AFC championship game a few years back. I know the Jets made 2 under Rex Ryan, but I a lot more people care about the Jets than the Jaguars. Like, when the Jaguars are bad, their own fans dress up as clowns. When the Jets are bad, it's a national story. And kind of this run with Rodgers, how you kind of made your point on getting Deshaun Watson not working out. All we were told the last few years, Jets just need a quarterback. Then they get a quarterback. I know he had the Achilles injury 3 plays into the season. But when the Jets are bad, it's always just, well, they're bad a lot of times. But there's always something that's just, how the heck does it happen to that team that way? So I would say Browns, Raiders, Jets, Jaguars are 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the Cowboys-Bears one is fascinating. Man. I think this is the toughest question that we've ever asked. And I'm going to say it's the Cowboys. I am. But man, I hate to go 5 and 5A. That's even a thing. But I'm going to go Browns 1, Raiders 2, Jets 3, Jaguars 4, Cowboys 5. And not putting the Bears in there, it feels slimy of incompetent organizations in the last 20 years. So there you go on that front. But anyway, why we were supposed to do this segment, and then we just got sidetracked, we're out of all the teams that have made new hires, which we have 6 out of 7 right now. We're still waiting for the Saints. What's a concern about one of these hires? So you look at Mike Vrabel. I think the biggest concern is the offensive side of the ball. I like the hire of Josh McDaniels, but Josh McDaniels without Tom Brady, what is he? Now, I know Josh McDaniels got Mac Jones to the playoffs and did some good stuff designing plays for Cam before Cam got the COVIDs. But I look at Josh McDaniels, and it's not only him, but the offensive side of the ball. Can you get an offensive line in there? Can you go get a number 1 wide receiver to enhance the development of Drake May, which, by the way, I have never been more furious about a player making the Pro Bowl than Drake May. Now, I get it. All these people say no. Someone's got to go to the Pro Bowl. But here's why I don't like it, Stu. And this is just me. Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl his rookie year. I think Drake May is a lot more talented than Mac Jones. But it's a similar feel. It gives me the PTSD going on back where it's like, is this Mac happening all over again? And you know what? I have to call a spade because I know that I have no problem pointing out when people are jinxes or mushes or they put on the hex. I really do believe it wasn't Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, those 2 bozos, running the Patriots offense, which I don't understand why Bill Belichick did that. I think I actually mushed the career of Mac Jones still. And, we're supposed to have Drake May on at the Super Bowl, and I may have to reconsider this.
Ooh.
Because I knew Mac a little bit, right? He came on the show when he was at Alabama. We stayed in contact. And after his rookie season, he was going on with Jim Rome at the Super Bowl. And I was in the green room, and we sat down next to each other. I was eating my oatmeal, and I was talking to him and I think his girlfriend. And ever since then, Mac Jones went from a Pro Bowl rookie quarterback to now basically holding a clipboard in Jacksonville and waiting for Trevor Lawrence to get injured. So Drake, I believe a lot more in the Mac. But if Drake May, if I meet him at the Super Bowl and then he turns out to be a bum, I may have to stop meeting Patriot quarterbacks. Now, I did meet Tom Brady a few times, and that guy wasn't a bum, but he was already established. I didn't meet Tom back in 2001. So that's something to monitor. But my concern for the Pats is the offense side of the ball. Ben Johnson. It's kind of crazy that we didn't put the Bears on that list because you know what I have written down for him? The Bears curse. Right, you got talent. You got Ben Johnson. You got Caleb Williams. You should be competent next year. And if you can't be competent, it's either 2 things. 1, the Bears are just cursed. Or 2, you're not the right person, even though everyone thinks you are, to transition from going from innovative offensive mind, offensive coordinator, and then taking that next step of being a head coach. Pete Carroll. Stu, what's your biggest concern? This is a loaded question.
Yeah,
All
can
the
it be
above?
a list of concerns, or is it just one?
What's the number one concern with Pete Carroll being your head coach, in your opinion?
Finding a quarterback.
Okay, mine's just very general. It's lack of talent.
It's fair.
I wouldn't even say Max Crosby's untouchable because you can get 2 first-round picks back for him, and I think that's something they should consider. But I look at the 2 players that you feel are your foundational pieces right now, right? You would say Max Crosby, and then you would also say it would be Brock Bowers.
Definitely, yes.
Like, what's your evaluation, by the way? And I'm asking this for a reason. What's your evaluation of the running back unit with the Raiders?
I mean, it's pretty dire. It's pretty bad. Right? Alexander Madison, like you move on from a guy in Josh Jacobs who's probably a top 5 running back. Okay, maybe he's getting a little older. Maybe he falls off a little bit, but they did not replace him, and they could not run the ball. The running backs are not good. The offensive line was terrible. So just all around pretty bad.
So here's why I ask you that. So I meant to bring this up to you last week, but it got lost in the shuffle of we didn't have that much time with the news brief, and we played a clip, and I forgot to bring it up to you. Last week, do you remember when we played a Richard Sherman clip talking about Pete Carroll? Do you remember that at all?
Vaguely, yes.
So he's talking about the hire, and he goes, I like the running back room with the Raiders. And, right, when you're a national host, I try to watch as many teams as possible. I can't be an expert on every team, even though I'm well-versed in NFL and college. But he was praising the running back room, and I'm like, the Raiders running back room sucks. It blows. That's what I'm like, what's he talking about? So that's why I asked you that question. But for me, for Pete Carroll, it's lack of talent still. That's what I ended up writing down.
Yeah, it's all around. They need a lot of help to become contenders.
Brian Schottenheimer. My concern is Jerry Jones, because Brian Schottenheimer's not the coach of the Dramas Dallas choking Cowboys. It's Jerry Jones, and he can't get out of his own way right now. All righty. Play me one more time. Our great friend. We got to get him on the show. We do. Yeah, I want Liam Coen on the show. Let's hear Liam Coen.
Duval.
My biggest concern after yesterday is his personality, because he comes off as extremely player-friendly. Are you player-friendly, though, and a doormat? Or can you be a disciplinarian? Can you be the authoritative voice and a leader of men when needed to? And then finally, Aaron Glenn, no quarterback. You have Rodgers. If Rodgers comes back, okay, that saves you a year. But I can't see Rodgers playing more than a year. So if Rodgers is out this year or next year, you're still stuck then in the boat where Salah was, where you have this talented roster, but you still don't have the long-term answer at quarterback. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Rob in Connecticut is next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Wants to chime in on some of the best players to ever win a championship, as we were talking about that earlier.
Absolutely, Zach. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. Alexa, volume 1.
What are you doing there, Rob?
Well, I didn't want the radio to be on while I was talking to you. And speaking of, when that thing came on, Duval, I thought my room was haunted when I heard that. It sounds creepy, ghosty.
Duval.
I thought, Rob, that you were ordering some food or something, or you're in the waiting room at a doctor's office. You sound like you were barking out some orders there, my man.
Oh, and by the way, I have to say something to you, Zach. You are brutal, kid. Let me tell you what. You made Hickey wear a damn Fighting Irish outfit. You're all over Carlos with the K. Mm-hmm. You are brutal. You know that?
Well, I'm not brutal.
You want what Maggie Gray to spray Cheese Whiz all over somebody with a bet too?
I'm just an idea guy. And here's the thing. When you lose a bet, you got to pay up. And Hickey lost the bet. I didn't hold him to it and said you have to make this bet or you're fired. He made a bet because he was confident. And he lost, so he paid off the bet. Carlos made a bet. It was a stupid bet. I told him he should have made the bet. He lost. And I just threw out a programming idea to Maggie Gray and it's an irrelevant point now, that if the Bills and the Eagles made the Super Bowl, they should do a blue cheese baptism or a Cheese Whiz christening for whoever's team lost. So if the Bills lost, they have to get dumped in blue cheese. And if the Eagles lost, Perloff would have to get dumped in Cheese Whiz. So I'm an idea guy here, Rob. Just an idea guy.
I heard that last night on the Bart Winkler show. That was funny. But listen, and I'm good today. And yesterday the Bills lost. and yes, we become numb to it. But my favorite player, native. You should know this. Long Island native, Carl Yastrzemski.
Carl Yastrzemski.
Ball.
Carl Yastrzemski. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. Football, of course, Thurman Thomas. I was thinking of Moreno, but Thurman Thomas followed him all the way through high school. I went 20 miles away from him in high school, so I knew who he was. Willow Ridge High School in Texas.
Yeah, where's his helmet? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, it's probably still in Texas, right? The next player I'm going to have to go with, I don't pay attention to basketball too much, but then I thought about it, Allen Iverson.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then hockey, my favorite hockey player of all time was Bobby Orr. He already won it, but I'm going to have to go with Eric Lindros.
Okay. Well, Rob, appreciate it. Thanks so much as always, and thanks for making the call. You know what's crazy? And I told you the NBA was a great one. So, Stu, you went the answer, Allen Iverson. I went with the mailman, Karl Malone. Sam, you went with Elgin Baylor. None of us said Charles Barkley. And you know what I think that shows? I think it shows that we actually have sympathy for Charles Barkley. Because every day Shaq, when they do Inside the NBA, brings up the fact that Chuck has never won a ring. So I think we gave some sympathy points there to Charles Barkley. All righty, Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Should the Steelers bring back Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson? We'll get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
The Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's players, Eagles linebacker Zach Bond, in Sunday's win over the Commanders. The former third-round pick had 12 tackles and forced a fumble. Bond joins Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, and Patrick Surtain as this year's Defensive Player of the Year finalists. I'll tell you, this Eagles defense, we all know that they're a really good defense. You know, I'll say if they win this Super Bowl, then I'll say, okay, great defense. You know, in terms of, I don't want to say all-time great defense. You know, they're unbelievable. There's a reason why they're top defense in the league. But you look at the amount of talent on this team and the defensive side of the ball, and especially this year. Jalen Carter, monster season. You look at Zach Bond, breakout season, unbelievable. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, or as I like to say, Cooper DeJean. You know, he's a Philly guy. They got to be a John. You got Darius Big Play Slay. This defense is awesome. And that's going to be a fun point in the Super Bowl where I think most people are going to be like, oh, Spagnuolo. And I love Spags, right? I did a Sports Minute today that he should be a Hall of Famer, win or lose in this Super Bowl. And I know assistant coaches don't make the Hall of Fame. But I look at Vic Fangio. This is a major bleep you moment for him, if you think about it. Those Dolphins players last year, how soft are some of those players complaining about Vic Fangio? Vic Fangio goes to Philadelphia. Looks pretty damn good to me. But, you know, the Dolphins had to get rid of him. And I will say this. I think that's a big difference. And I think this is going to be bizarre coming from me because I criticized him more than enough in Nick Sirianni. You look at Nick Sirianni compared to Mike McDaniel. They're both players, coaches. They both have the tag of being a doormat too. What Sirianni has done this year, I'm going to say he's not a doormat anymore. You know, looking back at it, and Sirianni was not perfect. Last year was indefensible. But I think last year made them stronger and also had Nick change some things as well. And I go back to that bye week when, Brandon Graham, met with Jalen Hurts and Sirianni, whatever happened, or Sirianni met with Jalen Hurts and they got him back on the same page. I thought that was big. But I think Nick in that locker room went for more of, the players loved him so much, but I don't feel like they let him down last year. And they saw the beating that he took in the first month and a half of the season. And sometimes, right, when you like someone so much and they go, I'm mad at you, doesn't do much. But when you go, hey, I'm disappointed in you, that really hurts. Because if there's someone that you like and they get mad at you, whatever, it will blow over. When they say, I'm disappointed in you, it's like, oh, knife in the heart. Oh, they're not just upset with me. I let them down. Like, just someone being mad is different than hearing, I'm disappointed in you. And I think those players realized that Sirianni was disappointed in them. And that has made that group stronger, where in Miami, I feel as if the players are still running the show there. Where Sirianni, he's running the show in Philadelphia in terms of the people in the locker room, because we know Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman have the final say in Philadelphia. So that's just something that I was thinking about. But man, Zach Bond, he was not on my bingo card this year for breakout player, defensive player. I just didn't have that stuff. Psych Mamter on Twitter. Now, that's a good question. Which is stronger, the Bears curse or the Hickey Hex? Stu, what's your answer on this? What's the stronger curse?
It's got to be Hickey Hex.
I think so as well. And that we don't have an Ask the Pros question today, but that was hashtag Ask the Pros. So now I was responding. And sometimes you respond with a GIF, right? We've all been on social media where you type in a GIF. And I know there's one GIF of Ryan Hickey in the algorithm, right, uploaded to Twitter. So I just searched Hickey. And you could imagine a lot of things came up that weren't Ryan Hickey. So I'm like, oh, I got to type Ryan Hickey. And then I don't know what he was doing. DA's in the background, like a caricature of DA. Not actually DA, just a caricature of DA. And Hickey's like ultimate white guy dancing, in this video. The ultimate, you know what? AB would name him Cracker of the Day. That's what he would name him. I saw AB also named Liam Coen Cracker of the Day too, which, if you don't take AB seriously, Antonio Brown, he is an awesome follow on Twitter. Just to see some of the stuff that he posts, and you're like, what? Like, no one is off limits with him. And they're like, AB, right? He's uncancelable. There's a few people that you can't cancel in this world. I'm trying. Dave Portnoy's one. Joe Rogan is one. Antonio Brown is one. There's just certain people that you can't cancel that we just like, all right, you get the benefit. We may not agree, like everything you say, but we know that you're in a level you could say whatever you want. So I would agree that the Hickey Hex is stronger than the Bears curse, though, as well. Let's do this. Let's hear from Art Rooney on Justin Fields and Russell Wilson next year. This courtesy of Steelers.com.
I think we saw enough out of both Russell and Justin to think that we'd like to have at least one of them back. Probably unlikely to have them both back, but I think we had enough success with both of them at different stretches during the season. That would be our first choice, is to have one of them back. But at the same time, we have to look at the draft. We have to look at what else is out there. It's, we have more than one job opening in the quarterback room, and we've got to bring in some people to help us.
So I don't think they could bring both back. I think he is right on that. Because if you're, right, Russell Wilson, if they bring you back, if you're Justin Fields, why would you want to go back there? Wouldn't you rather hitch your wagon somewhere else? And vice versa, if Justin Fields is brought back, I think Russ may say, okay, I could beat him out, and there is a preference here, but why would you want to risk that chance? Because, like, the moment you struggle, if you're Russell Wilson, like early on in the season, then the fans are going to be calling for Justin Fields. I think they got to make a decision, one or the other. And if I was running the Steelers, I would pick Justin Fields over Russell Wilson. And it's not because I think Justin Fields is a much better quarterback, but I think there's a higher ceiling. Like, I just saw Russ not start the season for them because of the injury, get back in even when Justin Fields was winning games. They got hot for a little bit, and then down the stretch, the Steelers were the Steelers, what they've been the last few years, where it's, okay, they get in the postseason, come playoff time, they crap the bed, they're very far away from great teams, being a great team. And you look down the stretch, they had some big games up against big opponents. They didn't win one of those games. Not one. So I talk about, right, Sean McDermott reaching his apex in Buffalo. But at least for Sean McDermott, it's like, okay, where do you go from there? I throw out Belichick. If it's not Belichick, then, you're going to run back Sean McDermott. I don't think Sean McDermott's getting fired, to be clear. In terms of Russell Wilson, all right, where are you going to go? Well, I'd rather see Justin Fields for a full season. Now, I'm not saying I believe Justin Fields is going to be the guy, But if I'm a Steelers fan, I'm more inclined to see Justin Fields over Russell Wilson. But I said this before, Mike Tomlin, you got 2 years here. If I'm running this team, you got 2 years. You got to either get me a playoff win or you got to get me a franchise quarterback. And if you don't, then I think you should be out. Hey, I got to ask you a question. So sometimes listeners tell you things.
Okay.
And they're either in the ballpark of being somewhat true, like there's some mixed truths there. Sometimes they tell you things and they're 100% true. And then sometimes a listener will tell you something and it's nowhere close to the truth. Because, like there could be like a joke that wasn't got, or they heard someone wrong, or, I've had people before, still, used to be in the 6 to 10 p.m. time slot, like JR will say something. And then people will be like, they tweet me and they'll be like, how could you say? I'm like, I haven't been on the air in like 3 hours. So like things like that happen. Were you guys talking last night? Rob in Connecticut called up.
Yes.
Were you talking about the Maggie, my bet idea to Maggie Gray?
I think so. I have him training somebody, Greg Frank, one of our newer guys. So he was on the board
I went
yesterday.
to college with.
No kidding. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he is a Philly guy.
I hired Greg Frank at the college radio station at Temple University.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this industry is small, like a period. That being said, I vaguely remember Rob being on, but I had been in and out, been training him, so they definitely may have talked about it, but it's possible that I could not have been in the room. So we had taped with Maggie earlier in the day, so that spot was pre-recorded.
Oh, you guys had Maggie on last night.
Yeah, we wanted to get the Bills fan perspective from the loss.
How is she doing, by the way?
Just, in good spirits considering, but how do you get over
last year I was a jerk to Maggie after the Bills loss.
Oh, no.
Hand up, full admission. I was walking home from a buddy's apartment. We were all watching the game, and I put out a video. Hey, Maggie, just checking in. Want to see how you're doing. It was gut-wrenching this year. Last year was bad, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I thought this one, even though it's on the road and last year was home, I thought was worse. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going after Maggie on this one. I'm not being a jerk here because I actually felt bad for Maggie. I'm not surprised she did the spot because she did a whole show on it.
Yeah.
But that was a somber kind of mood, I would imagine.
I mean, Maggie being Maggie, still perky as ever. But, obviously a little bit more downtrodden with the Bills loss.
Yeah.
But, you should be used to it at this point.
So I recommended, this is my idea to Maggie when she came on with us Friday, and we thought there was this idea, right? Bills were going to play the Eagles in the Super Bowl, the Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff Super Bowl.
Now that you mentioned it, I do remember.
Yeah. So I suggested to her, the loser, like if the Bills lose, Maggie has to do a blue cheese baptism. And then if the Eagles lost, there would have to be a Cheese Whiz christening for Perloff.
I love how both of these have religious connotations to it.
And I volunteered coming from a Jewish guy too. I volunteered my services if they needed a larger individual to pick up the bucket.
Sure.
To dump the blue cheese or the Cheese Whiz on them. And I also said I'd bring in breakfast too.
Oh,
so I got a DM from a listener about this. I think it was our buddy Nick in Texas. He reached out to me. And he goes, investigative on this, because I guess he didn't hear it. He goes, just got off the call. I haven't responded to Nick, so I'll do so. On my annual Super Bowl bet, I guess he does a Super Bowl bet with them each and every year. They brought up your idea, the blue cheese idea. Expand on that, and I'll call back another time to clarify. I mean, it sounds good and disgusting. Perfect for a Super Bowl show bet. I kind of feel as if that idea goes out the window.
Oh, it's totally dead.
The Bills and the Eagles. Now, if Nick wants to bet Perloff, if the Eagles lose, you could still do Cheese Whiz getting dumped on Nick, or if the Eagles on Perloff, and then if the Chiefs win, then it gets dumped on.
Yeah, what's the Chiefs equivalent?
Kansas City barbecue sauce.
There you go.
That's what they. You know what, Nick? I'm going to reach out to him. Chiefs lose the Super Bowl, you get smothered in Kansas City barbecue sauce. If Perloff loses the Super Bowl, then he gets dunked in cheese.
I like it. That's how you adjust on the fly.
I've always feel like Perloff gets a short end of the sticks on these bets. Maggie did have to eat that. What was it? That tuna fish with Jell-O, I think.
Yeah, but Perloff had to crush a peanut butter jar.
But that's not that bad. I love peanut butter. If you tell me crush a peanut butter jar, I don't care.
No,
I love peanut butter.
No, I'd go into a sugar coma immediately and finish in the jar. Start seizing on the floor. Especially if it's super chunky.
Yeah, but I love peanut butter. Stu, did you think you had a jar of peanut butter?
Yeah, I could do that.
I'd be afraid how it...
Crazy.
This is going to sound weird. I'd be afraid how it exits your body. I was cleaning that up a little bit.
Just drop.
Yeah, sure. Go. You become the drop king. Anytime I tune into Bart's show, I have to say to myself, is my Comrex connected? Because I hear myself. You have a whole folder of me.
I have, not just you. I do have a folder of drops.
Who else do you go after?
Maggie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Maggie is very droppable.
So you would say in the drop rankings that you have, would I be 1 and Maggie would be 2?
I actually don't think either of you cracked the top 3.
What?
We have caller drops too, and
do you?
We have some of the more insane callers at that time.
I did 2 to 6 a.m. for years. Out of hosts or people that work here or worked here, is there anyone that passes myself or Maggie in terms of your drops?
I think Maggie actually just slightly ahead of you. Yes.
I got to hear the Maggie.
I got to play
drops
them more
then.
often. That's what I have to do.
Okay,
I'm Carlos Ortiz,
and I'm not a man of my word. Oh, that was good.
Oh, look at Stu.
Stu Samter, we got to up our drop game. Now, I don't like sometimes when producers just play like an excessive amount of drops. Like if someone's in a really good rant and they
good
take
balance.
away.
Yes.
I've had people that have messed up my shows or segments. Not Hickey, not Samter, not Stu, to be clear.
I'm going to name names.
There were some fill-in producers here who no longer work here that thought they were DJs that would just play things when they would fill in.
Baby Shark, Baby Shark.
Wait, what?
Baby Shark.
That was one?
I remember one of those days, yep.
Oh, yeah, he did bounce back with... Yeah, but there'd be like...
That was an
EDM.
open.
Yeah, there were like some EDM. And I'm like, what the heck are we doing? But there'd be times like I'm in like a rant and people would just play drops of like...
you got to know when to lay out.
When I'm going in a rant... You don't want to stop the volcano explosion in that case. Like, just let it go, and then eventually there'll be some cleanup afterwards. You could play a drop. But there's sometimes that there's, like, some producers and board ops that they just try to make their presence known.
Sure.
And I think you do a very good job.
I appreciate that. As long as the listeners like it, that's all I care about.
Yeah. But I think we should... Carlos has provided us with a lot of drops today.
You can peacock all you want.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
You know what? I should have one. I should have some Hickey. Nobody beats Hickey. And I don't have any. That's actually a shame for me.
Because Hickey's drops are innocent, Yeah. Like, he does the drops, and then he's like, oh, I didn't even realize he's
completely oblivious
to it. Samter and Stu?
You can peacock all you want.
I was calling him a chicken, and he goes, you could peacock all you want. I'm like, dude, that's a... And at the end, we said,
no idea. Yeah.
That's a great drop. He's like, what drop are you guys talking about? So... You do a very good job on the drops.
Thank you.
There's no doubt about that. And you don't interrupt Bart, in terms of like ruining the set. It always flows well.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Obviously we have a little natural disconnect because he's all the way in Milwaukee and I'm here. But, as time goes on.
To Milwaukee.
So, I don't know how it's going to work out. The draft, actually, that would be perfect. The draft is in Green Bay.
In Green Bay?
Yeah, it's 2 hours from Milwaukee. It's not like you got to take another plane.
Yeah, so... I would love to take you to Carnivore in Milwaukee. That steakhouse is unbelievable.
Oh, you had me at steakhouse?
Yeah. And you know what? I was very disappointed with Ryan McGuire, who works with us here at Westwood One. I love Ryan. But I know he lived in Milwaukee. He still may. And I go, oh, I've been to Carnivore. He's like, I don't like that place. I'm like, what are you talking about?
What's not to like?
Oh, just give me spotted cow and Wagyu beef. I'm good.
Good to go.
100% good. All righty, let's get the latest update. Here he is, Carlos with the K, the drop master.
Infinity Sports Network, Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, looks like the Sacramento Kings are open for business. Reports are that the team is open to dealing all-star guard De'Aaron Fox ahead of next Thursday's trade deadline. According to sources, Rich Paul of Clutch Sports, who represents Fox, recently sent out word that it would be wise for the Kings to move him now. San Antonio is rumored to be the preferred destination. Fox is set to become an unrestricted free agent next summer. Jimmy Butler could be on the move, too, for the 3rd time this season. The Miami Heat have suspended Butler, this one indefinitely. He was expected to return in last night's win over the Magic, but walked out of shoot-around when he was given the plans to drop out of the starting 5. With the Heat lowering their asking price, it's allowed some teams to kick the tires on a potential trade. Right now, the Suns and Warriors looking to make a deal, but Philadelphia is also rumored to be in the mix. The Cowboys are hiring former Bears head coach Matt Eberflus as their new defensive coordinator. He'll take over for a Mike Zimmer defense that finished 28th in yards and 51st in points per game, partly due to injuries. And Cliff Kingsbury has said thanks, but no thanks. Kingsbury has removed himself from consideration in the Saints head coaching job, returning to the Commanders for the offensive coordinator position for the 2nd season in a row, teaming up with Jaden Daniels. I'm Carlos Ortiz.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie.
And this is Nick.
From the Backstreet Boys.
And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
All righty, by the way, big thank you to Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone was in the office today, and I guess because Aaron Boone was here, we got free food. So I don't have to cook dinner tonight. I was going to make a little rice with some green beans in it and some onions and some chicken sausage. But now I got pasta pesto, an Italian sandwich, and some spinach. So that's easy for me. You know what? Let's do this. So I know we're supposed to do overreaction, proper reaction. Since we got like 4 minutes left in the show, let's punt overreaction, proper reaction until tomorrow. So we'll do that tomorrow. And man, you know, Stu, did you have any of this Italian food that they brought
did. Carlos with a K did bring me a little bit of that nice sandwich, which was very, very good.
That's a good sandwich.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too shabby.
Very good. You got to talk here for a second.
Yeah.
I just took a bite.
It was this nice Aaron Boone coming through. I mean, can't really say that from this winter.
I think we can't criticize Aaron Boone for
That's what I'm trying to
months.
say, yeah.
That's got a kick to it. That's a spicy sandwich right there.
Is that a chicken one?
No.
It's ham, I think. I had a
ham,
sandwich, yeah.
I think there's some pepperoni on here too, salami and cheese, something like that. I think it is ham though. Spicy ham though. That's a spicy ham sandwich. I love pasta pesto. I do. I love, but you put pesto on pasta, 1000% in. What's by the way? Watch, we'll do Phil Radio right now. We only have a few minutes left. Super Bowl Sunday. What's your spread, Stu? Have you figured it out yet? What are you doing?
So we have not. So Angie's sister's boyfriend is a big Eagles fan. So
oh, is he?
We are watching it at his place, their place, and we'll do something Philly related. Now, this past weekend, he made Philly cheesesteak wontons.
Oh,
very, very good. Very enjoyable. Those are awesome with some buffalo chicken dip as well. So we'll probably do something Philly themed, I assume, since he's a big Eagles fan.
Cheesesteak egg rolls are pretty good.
Yeah, we thought of that. That might be an option.
Samter, you have a grill because you moved out to the rich folks in Connecticut. You have a big fancy grill out there on your big deck. What do you got cooking right there on the grill? You make anything for Super Bowl Sunday?
I mean, I'll be honest. Now that I moved to this new area, I haven't made any like cool friends to come hang out yet. I have all my friends are all over the country now. So like
Super Bowl, you got to make something.
I'm not make something, but I'll probably just order some wings.
Yeah.
Or some hors d'oeuvres or something. But the Super Bowl has become a much less exciting event in my household over the past 2 or 3 years. Because usually I get back from the week of Radio Row on a Saturday, and you're half tired.
And your football out.
You miss the
baby.
You want to spend.
Yeah,
by the time I get home, all I want to do is just kind of hang out with the baby and eat food and drink.
That sounds depressing.
Yeah, right.
No, it's fun. I enjoy it, but it's like the idea of going to a Super Bowl
with
party.
Michael Samter on the Infinity Sports Network.
The idea of going to a Super Bowl party after a week away is not as enticing to me as it would have been 5-10 years ago.
I also don't like Super Bowl parties. Is that weird?
I don't like watching games with a big group of people. So I could say this because they're my friends. I was asked to hang out with my friends, big ask, I know, conference championship weekend. And I went to a buddy of mine's apartment. There were only 10 people there. But when I can't hear the game because someone's asking me 9,000 questions during the game, I was annoyed. I left with 3 minutes left of the NFC Championship game. I said, I'm getting an Uber. I'm going back to my apartment so I can make it back in time for the start of the Bills-Chiefs, because I had one friend that I think he thought we were playing 21 questions. And he just decided to go question after question after question after question, asking me to justify my bets. And I go, I pick it because that's what I thought is going to happen. Stop asking me any bleeping questions. I'll be honest, I was not a nice person. Not a nice person whatsoever. But it's just I just want to watch the game. I just want to watch the game. And there's some questions I get asked, no problem. When it's just one after another. It was like enough was enough.
And the other part of it is any other game, when the commercials come on, that's your time to talk and have conversation. Yeah. But the Super Bowl, you want to watch the commercials. So, like...
Yeah, I'm not a big Super Bowl commercial guy, if I'm being honest.
I love the commercials. It's been a bunch of duds, but you still don't want to, like, take all that commercial time away just to have conversation.
Yeah. All righty. That will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. What a 3-minute filler segment right there.
Time for overreaction, proper reaction.
Yeah. We'll come on back tomorrow. I had a good line right there. I'll bite my lip on it, though, for the sake of time. Big thanks to Sal Capaccio. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. It's the Zach Gelb Show. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.